No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used knock on quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Berserk's going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big
huge.
face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. I have to. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with it. It's gonna get dog.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god!
Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Box Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Box Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force dive, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think they win the team fight.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Divine League Semifinals. We are getting closer and closer towards that final matchup, and we are going to be finding out one of the teams tonight who will be playing in that grand final. It's going to be the Miami University Redhawks or Team Ambition Vikings, as those two rosters face off against one another in a best-of-5 tonight. My name is Gordo. I am joined tonight by Slayer on the color cast, and got a banger series ahead of us, Slayer.
Yeah, it's the old homage, right, of the sort of clash of the favorite versus the team that's riding a hot streak, right, Gordo? I mean, it wasn't close in all three games last week for the Redhawks, but a 3-0 is a 3-0 nonetheless when you look at it. And on the other side, Team Ambition Vikings, well, they kind of just been taking care of anybody that you put in front of them, so it'll be really interesting to see. The funniest part to me, though, Gordo, is when you look back to the spring split of Divine League. Team Ambition, it wasn't Team Ambition Vikings, it was Team Ambition Black, but they didn't look that great in regular season. They had to make a run of the gauntlet to the finals, and they ended up winning this whole thing. So now they're in that big bad number 1 seed spot, looking down a team that looks eerily similar to how they played in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mark Boots and Turk are coming back from that roster, so definitely going to be looking to get 2 titles in a row there. I can't think of when, if ever, the last time that's been done on Risen Divine. So TA looking for, as an organization, to take 2 titles in a row. Mark Boots and Turk looking to take 2 titles in a row as individuals. So definitely a fun thing to be keeping our eyes on there. And you're damn right about University of Redhawks' hot streak here, because not only did they 3-0 last week, but they were 4-0 in their last 2 matches. So they're on a 7-game win streak here coming into the night. So definitely quite the hot streak to be riding. We'll see if it's going to be enough for them to actually be able to face off against the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, the craziest part about that series, right, was like some of those wins were the most gutsy sort of League of Legends wins possible. I mean, you have a guy like I Stole Christmas. That game, was that game 2, or was that the deciding game? on the
game
Jacks.
3 was the backdoor on the Jacks.
Yeah,
one
that
was nuts.
that game is insane because you're talking about your entire team. A lot of those lanes were losing. You realize it's a really weird predicament. There's very few League of Legends games where you go, all right, we can't 5v5. How do we win this game? And well, it's throw the Jacks in a side lane and backdoor teleport, take down every single Nexus turret. It seemed like there were very little facets for the Redhawks to even get a W, get a sweep there. And to win like that not only is just crazy for us as casters calling it, viewers watching it, but team morale overall. So you got to think spirits are high with a guy like I Stole Christmas playing like that. Who can't you beat?
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're talking about streaks, that now means 2 weeks in a row that our featured match on the Divine League broadcast has ended with backdoor. So
True.
something to keep looking out for tonight here. I mean, we had that crazy Trundle backdoor in the final week of the regular season. I was losing my mind over that one. Almost lost the game because they were BMing about it a little bit. Now coming in to what is going to be a much higher stakes match here in the semifinals. You know, we're running the single elim bracket for this split. Had a couple less teams than in the past, and yeah, it's all or nothing here. TA Vikings, they're coming in as the #1 seed, but they've only got this one chance. They got to be able to win 3 out of these next 5 games, or they're done. They're not going to have a lower bracket to run back through this time around.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great point to mention there. I do want to quickly highlight, because I know we don't always get to do this when we're showcasing one of these matches. I do want to highlight the matchup on the other side of the bracket for these two teams potentially before we get into, you know, Miami University Redhawks and Team Ambition Vikings. Other side, it's Purdue University, and I know it got a little frazzled between these two Purdue rosters, the varsity versus university. This is the team that looked nigh unbeatable in that lower group in their regular season split as well. So you're talking about, you know, a squad that I believe ended up going, yeah, they 4-0'd their group. Mm-hmm. So they're the second seed. They 4-0'd their group. But on the other side, Cupid Esports, they're a 3-1 squad who I believe we got to look at week 1 in a pretty dominating win over, I believe it was the One Life to Play. They played a nice series against One Life to Play. So on the bottom side, the big takeaway is, sure, these are kind of a clash of the Titan versus the Hot Streak team, but whoever these two end up facing in the finals is not going to be a cakewalk nonetheless.
No, absolutely not. And you know, probably even a cleaner 4-0, I would argue, for the side of Purdue. Because, you know, you look at TA Vikings, and yeah, they managed to finish up 4-0. They're definitely the best team in their group, but they do drop a lot of games along the way there. 8-3 is their game record over the course of the regular season. That's 3 series out of the 4 that they played where they ended up dropping a game and taking it to the full 3. So would definitely be a surprise to see this series end super, super cleanly either way. I'm thinking we're getting 4 or 5 games here tonight for sure, Slayer.
And hey, I'm always a fan of extra League of Legends. I mean, especially with the preseason looming, and you know, now Worlds is wrapped up. Gordo, we're quickly losing the amount of high-level League of Legends we honestly can watch, except for some solo queue streams from maybe a Korea boot camp in the preseason. And I'm all for extra League of Legends action, and I'm really curious to see as we sort of start to dive into this matchup. The big question in my head, Gordo, is how do you try and limit Mark Boots? Initially, from a draft standpoint, it's nearly impossible.
Yeah, it is pretty tough. He's got a deep champion pool for himself, a lot of them that he's willing to bring out on the competitive stage. You know, you got to be respectful of this guy's control mages, his Victor, his Azir. They have always been fantastic on the competitive stage. But then you look over to solo queue stats, and, you know, he's got a mean Ahri, he's got a mean Sylas, he's got a mean LeBlanc. He'll play some of these skill matchups into you as well. So he'll really play both sides of the current meta coin, and it's a tough task coming in for Pee-wee to figure out how he's really going to be able to get through this. But, you know, Pee-wee had a really strong series last week as well. You know, he was a close runner-up for our player of the series. A couple of really nice Rise games in there, and that's a champion that outside of Faker, a lot of folks aren't really willing to bring out right now. So I'm going to have my eyes on that pick in particular. That's one that he really seemed to just bring out of nowhere last week, and it probably has to be on everybody's view coming into this semifinals matchup.
I mean, it's always, everyone likes to look at the mid lane, right? That's I feel like that's one of the most watched. It's probably the most watched lane in League, no matter who's really matching up there. But to kind of go bigger scope, I know, we're gonna keep harping back to Worlds, not only because arguably probably one of the best Worlds we've ever seen. I'm sure me and Gordo could debate that for about an hour and a half on the broadcast. But I'm curious just to see how the Aatrox prio still goes, because I feel like despite some of the heroics from some of those young guys on DRX, man, did it just seem like whoever was helming that Darkin in that matchup had a complete power stomp on the top lane. So as we do finally get into picks and bans here, I'm curious to see if Aatrox is even allowed to be selected by TAV on the blue side.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because if my memory is not mistaken, I Stole Christmas had some solid matches into the Aatrox last week. The caliber of top laner here maybe steps up a little bit as you're coming to face off against TA Vikings. So wonder if they're still going to be letting that pick through. The answer is no. It's going to get banned away, at least on the red side in this game number 1. And there's the Rise respect. TA Vikings choosing to take that one away from Pee-wee here for game number 1.
And it looks like the Redhawks are doing their best impression of the anti-Yuumi fan club that we saw a couple of times. They will not first ban it, but they'll take Yuumi away. Poppy as well. So it looks like out the gate, Team Mission Vikings, yeah, they're a couple good respect bans, but they also want to make sure that they maybe can unlock a bit bad with some of these jungle picks. I'm curious because when you think about Trundle and Poppy, it's hard to compare those two champions, but the thing that pops out in my head, Gordo, really good early dueling junglers. So maybe that gives a bit of an idea of what we potentially could see from this first pick on the blue side for a bit bad.
Yeah, I do think the Graves ban is a great choice. Targeting those kind of marksman, heavy farm style junglers up against bad is definitely something you want to do. He's got that Kindred in his pocket as well. Pioshik's been showing that one off all the way up through the finals. So you got to believe that that's a champion that he's going to be willing to play in this current meta. But speaking of the current meta, Loki Dosi going to lock in the Lucian as the first pick for the TA Vikings. Only got to see one TA Vikings series throughout the season, but Loki Dosi really impressed me. He and Turk have been tearing it up in that bottom lane, and going for this Lucian lock-in early on makes a lot of sense to me.
It's really intriguing, though, and that's exactly the point I was going to make on the Redhawks side is how often do you see Lucian blinded without the Nami backup? It's been so long since I've seen a first pick Lucian in the Divine League, and Miami University, with the correct response, I would assume, they take away that Nami. So obviously Turk has a very deep champion pool. I would argue the deepest support champion pool of anybody in the Divine League, but anytime you think Lucian, you're thinking Lucian Nami, and instead it's going to be Lucian versus Caitlyn Nami. Is the Caitlyn, fun fact, the most banned champion in the entirety of the Worlds tournament was Caitlyn, and the Redhawks are going to helm that one for Yongan.
Yeah, so going to be that Caitlyn Nami lane. So, Nami picked away from Lucian, not very common these days, not one that we get to see very often at all, but makes sense as a pairing with Caitlyn. Kind of has the same deal that Caitlyn Lux brings to the table, where you kind of have that ability to fish for an additional CC ability. You can chain together with traps. You can do all that fun stuff. So going to be a threatening lane up against the TA Vikings. And then the other side of that coin is, are you even really happy to be playing the Lucian if it's away from the Nami? You can go for things like the Karma, like the Lulu, to still try to get that Ardent Blaze Empower, but it's not the same. It's not going to hit the same as that Nami Empower is. So kind of two different training weights put on either bot lane here, as they have to play these two champions separately.
Yeah, Lucian Nami, separated does not hit well, but it hits different. Mark Boots Silas, man, there's been so many games this guy's absolutely 1v9'd any sort of team in front of him, so they're going to prioritize picking the Silas. And the answer for not having a Nami, Gordo, it seems we're going to keep the same level of aggression early on bot with Blitzcrank, but it's not going to be buffing up the Lucian. It's going to be setting him up for some easy damage with the Blitzcrank. Still a lot of aggression, but I know we're both are thinking with this. Always gotta love matching with the Sejuani when she's up this late to a draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see the Sejuani locked in here. I think that's a pretty powerful pick. It's a little rough up against the Silas, though. The Silas being able to snag away that Glacial Prison, definitely going to be something to keep our eyes on. I got a lot of questions about this Lucian Blitzcrank bottom. You know, it's an old school duo. It's but that was an older Lucian. That was a Lucian who worked a little bit differently. And I really wonder if you're even getting very good value out of this Lucian pick if you can't get the passive portion of Ardent Blaze. You know, if you can't get, or if there's a way to kind of trick your way into doing it with the Blitzcrank. Maybe you rush a Zeke's Convergence or something, and that can get you. I don't even know if that counts though for actually triggering the W. So it's gonna be a tough one. I don't know how, like, if Lucian is even that strong if you can't actually manage to get the buffs on your W.
Yeah, I don't think it does. So I guess the Ardent Blaze is sort of out of the question at this point, which is going to be very intriguing going forward. We do get into the second phase of bans here, and it looks like I'm surprised the Vikings still have jungle up. I really thought that they would pick something for a bad by this point, but they don't. So you see the J4 and the Viego taken away from him. There's another one of those farming late scale junglers. On the other side, all the respect in the world to I Stole Christmas. I don't care what Team Ambition will tell you right now. I know they saw that game 3 from the Redhawks. No Jax for I Stole Christmas along with that Camille. So two duelist-based top laners off the board for I Stole Christmas.
Yeah, Pee-wee gonna snag that Akali though instantly as soon as the ban phase finishes off. So he's willing to throw down with Mark Boots here. You know, coming off of a couple of very strong performances, especially in the quarterfinals. He's willing to bust out this Akali. This is a skill matchup as old as the rework of Akali, and these guys are really going to be a lot of fun to watch in the mid lane. So I'm really happy we get to showcase that matchup as early as this game number 1 in the Sylas Akali matchup, and is really going to influence how these teams have to draft for the rest of the series. Bad going to be happy to lock in his Xin Zhao. It's another champion he's very well practiced on. Maybe one a little bit less core in the meta right now, but does win the 1v1 against the Sejuani. So now we'll have to see if Miami wants to flex that one to top lane, or if they're willing to take that unfavorable jungle matchup, as Fiora has been locked in for the TAV top.
Whew. TAV are bringing all the fire for game 1 in their solo lanes. I mean, Fiora, just a crazy duelist potential. There's not much you need to say there with what can get done there with Flying Oyster, helming the duelist, and then Sylas on Mark Boots. It seems right now like from a team composition point, just face value taking it away. Maybe TAV, they maybe don't want to really fight heavily as 5v5 when they come out of lanes. It seems like maybe they want to send Mark Boots around with Turk, which is obviously not an ironic, but expected duo to run around the map as the more pedigreed members of the squad. Going for picks, and you put Fiora on an island where you have to force 2 to go up there. They're looking to sort of break away any sort of team fight, and with Gangplank as the answer, no flex Sejuani to the top lane. It's going to be the jungler. It's going to be Evil Lobster on the Sejuani. The other side of the bracket looks like, man, oh man, if you get into a 5v5 scrum with that cannon barrage and a frozen prison lined up on top of each other with a tidal wave, that spells disaster. I don't care who you send on the blue side.
Yeah, fantastic pick potential coming through for the Miami Redhawks in this game number 1. They are really going to be looking to find some members stuck on their own and burst them right out. Does look like My Tent is coming in at 80 carry for game number 1, so that's going to be a slightly different lineup than we saw out of them in the quarterfinals. I do think it's the intended one. I'd have to double check there to see if that's the starter they intend to run all the time. Or if it's a little bit of a name change coming through. All of these are always possibilities, but TA Vikings coming in with the expected 5-man that we've seen throughout the entire season, and definitely going to be a really strong skirmish-style composition, assuming that they can get multiple members there, right? Because if you're getting picked off solo as the TA Vikings, you're going to have a lot of trouble actually surviving here. You know, Bad's got a little bit of survivability with that Crescent Guard, but outside of that one, these champions are definitely vulnerable to getting hit by a Glacial Prison from the fog and shut right down.
Yeah, and another good point to make is the fact that you always like to talk about like the lake. I mean, scaling is a conversation with any sort of game at any level, but the bigger conversation here may be the snowballing, because Team Mission Vikings, if you don't come out of the first 12 minutes of this game with either Loki Dosi ahead in the bottom lane or Flying Oyster ahead in the top lane, your strategy going for mid to late game is going to be very, very rough. Lucian already is very hard to helm in a team fight status. He's been weaker. I mean, what season was he considered a strong team fighter? Maybe back when Blitzcrank and Lucian was a bottom lane pick together. The last time we saw that. So
550 range, maybe.
yeah, exactly. When he had 550 range, and then Fiora, it can scale up a lot, but can you afford all that time to farm up if you're flying Oyster if you didn't get a lead early against the team on the other side with this Caitlyn that's farming up? A Kali matches Silas in a lot of ways, and oh boy, Gangplank up there. It's just, Team Ambition Vikings have shown that they can play comps where they have to get things done early, but boy, have they ever picked a comp where they have to do it now in the semifinals.
Yeah, they sure have here. I saw Flying Oyster was sitting on Ghost TP there for a minute. We'll see when we get loaded in if that's actually what he ends up sticking with. But let's take a couple minutes here and let's do our series and game predictions, Slayer. We didn't get to do series before we saw draft. Got into it a little bit too quickly this time, but that's fine. We can stick them both together. How about you lead us off?
Well, I think this is going to be a 5-game stretch. I love riding momentum on teams, but I will not pick against the reigning champs till they give me a reason to. So I'm going to 3-2 in name of Team Ambition Vikings. But Gordo, they're going to drop game 1.
I think I'm exactly with you there. I'm
Wow.
really on. I'm on 3-2 for TA Vikings for sure. They've taken a bunch of series to 3 games, pretty much the whole season long. They're off a bye week as they had that bye from the round 1. Miami Redhawks are running hot, as you said, and I think they can keep running that hot streak here. I'm really not crazy about Lucian without any way to buff him up. I think it's going to be tough for Flying Oyster to get ahead of the Gangplank matchup. So unless Bad can make some magic happen, which he can, I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible, I feel like TA Vikings are off to a bit of a disadvantage coming out of the draft.
Wow, I did not expect that. So much. We're conjoined here on our takes, and we'll say let's see if we cast or curse them to death, or we look pretty smart here. There's really only 2 options, but I'm certainly just so excited to finally hit Summoner's Rift to see what these matchups look like purely from the 2 teams we have in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got about a minute 30 until we're going to be on the Rift, so we're going to throw a quick break during that time, get everything set up. We'll see you on the other side as TA Vikings take on the Miami University Redhawks in game number 1.
Find everyone, but there's the kill. Unbound, he's doing it all. Unbound doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys go? Okay.
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think they win the team fight.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it, get it, get it, get it!
Like, you know where, like, the cleavage is? Where, like, the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used knock-on fight hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Redhawks going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. I have tissue, I have tissue. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with this. It's gonna get dog.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god!
Have any teleports
Go for a
on the
pick
side of
play here.
CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Box Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there.
He's
This
in
could be the
Mega.
pick they
He's
want,
in Mini.
but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Box Prime dies before anyone else can go
Oh,
in.
he
They
missed the
don't get the
call
second
force
call of the
guy.
force dive, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of
Still
CCW.
going.
Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on it?
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Divine League, where we've got TA Vikings taking on the Miami University Redhawks for a spot in the grand finals. Game 1 of a best of 5, and it looks like the two teams prioritizing opposite sides of the map here. TA got 5 members heading in towards the opposing red side of Miami, doing the same on the bottom, seeming to wait for a potential invade, but they got the wrong side.
Yeah, they're kind of mirroring each other with their sort of hesitancy to go for this, as it looks like topside, yeah, they do ping over Evil Lobster that he's going to walk over there to clear red. A good ward there won't be spot out, so the good old-fashioned ward wars go in the way of the Vikings is, I think, a bit bad. We'll have at least somewhat of an idea what sort of path this Sejuani will go on.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good idea of where the Sejuani is right now. She's standing right on top of the ward, so he can make a good bet that she's going to be starting over on that red side. Going to take a little while to end up migrating over towards the blue. We'll see if Mark can take advantage of that in any way. He definitely wants to end up on the same side as Evil Lobster once it comes time for Scuttle Crabs, because he's going to win that brawl all day long.
Yeah, 100%. And I would wager it's been a while since I've seen a Zinzao. Probably quicker clear as well compared to the Sejuani coming across as, oh my god.
Nice hook onto Militant there from Turk. Pulls him right through the minion wave and is going to chunk him to about half HP right away, as well as blowing that flash. Huge advantage to TA Vikings.
Yeah, Beans will be able to heal the Caitlyn up, but it will cost a lot of her mana as well to do so. So yeah, great advantage. I mean, hey, listen, we could talk all we want about how Blitzcrank and Lucian maybe isn't the best duo anymore in 2022, but if you're hitting hooks, very few things will be said in negative light of your bottom lane.
Yeah, no, I mean, you keep that up, you're going to be winning a lot of these trades. Going to be turning a lot of them in your favor. And, you know, the damage that Blitzcrank does on his own has gone up a lot as well versus where he might have been a little while ago. They gave him a lot of just straight up damage buffs recently, trying to push him a little bit more into having those jungle and top lane options. And while those aren't really sitting at great win rates, they've done a hell of a lot to help out his support win rate.
Yeah, they've done a lot to help him in those skirmishes as things sort of settle a bit in here. Flying Oyster doing as good as a job as he can to keep Still Christmas in an uncomfortable spot, playing versus Fiora. And we did get to see it towards the end of draft. It is going to be the teleport ghost. No flash on this Fiora. Will be really interesting to see how that plays out. Is it looks like both these junglers trying to set up for the respective ganks, and I think a bit bad might have a better time towards mid.
Yeah, moving in onto Pee-wee here, who might have to flash away if he's not careful.
Ooh,
There's going to
good
be the
chain.
abduct, and now he's waited too long. First blood comes through for a bit bad in the mid lane. Excellently played there, Pee-wee. A little too greedy with the flash.
I guess I want to say PB just wasn't expecting Mark Boots to land the chain there. I think it was maybe thought it was a little too far. That was a max range chain to set up the stun, beautifully chained up with a bit bad's knockup, and that is a great set. Maybe you want to get the kill onto Mark Boots there, but you still give him such a great advantage now being able to helm a TP advantage. And oh boy, they might just repeat the same gank.
Yeah, Pee-wee does still have the flash, so in theory should be able to get away this time. Evil Lobster is actually coming through for the counter gank, so Pee-wee just going to find himself with a pretty nice trade, and they're going to try for this 2-on-2, and they're going to lock down Pee-wee again. This time he has to flash away, but Bad is going to have the flash to follow it up. Gets one more poke in before he gets stunned. That's a big win for TA. Evil Lobster trying to escape, but wind becomes lightning, lands. Mark Boots will drop in trade, but that's a 2-for-1 for the TA Vikings.
That's a 2-for-1 for TAV and a 3-0-0 Xin Zhao. The patience coming from the Vikings jungler there. He knew that Pee-wee was going to try and turn that with his shroud. Waits it out patiently. His boy bot side.
Yeah, Turk getting hit up by the bubble there in return for the knock up onto Beans. So Beans actually ends up taking the stronger side of that trade. The Lucian damage, you know, it's not crazy when you don't have any way of buffing him up here in the very, very early game. He is going to recall, pick up that Dirk, get a little bit stronger, but it's tough.
Well, Respecting Knight did come across from its Beans, thinking that maybe Turk would go for a hook, maybe accidentally step into turret aggro. But yeah, Nami doing a really good job repelling. But it's still the Vikings. I mean, we said it, right? Somebody had to get ahead in the early game for this comp to work out. I honestly wouldn't have put my money on a bit bad. I would have I would have wagered maybe of Flying Oyster to the top side or potentially Loki Dosi, how he's been playing all split, but it's a lead nonetheless massively for this Xin Zhao.
Yeah, absolutely. Here and now Mark Boots in a favorable position in the mid lane as well. He's got all that assist gold he's sitting on, and Flying Oyster keeping I Stole Christmas very low. The trade breaking out in the mid lane once again as Mark Boots is trying to bait for Turk. You called out this duo working together earlier on, and they're already off to the races. Turk doesn't even have his mobility boots yet, and he's still very happy to be hanging around in the mid lane.
Yeah, exactly. And he'll head back towards bottom lane. And hey, that's the double up effect of that is you get Loki Dosi some solo XP. Is it looks like Nami will also begin to roam around. Interestingly enough, Loki Dosi on first back. I don't know the last time I saw a dagger rush from Lucian, but going for pure lethality off the great. That's a good way to make sure the damage is enough.
Pee-wee just getting caught unawares once again here. Bad lands him over the wall. He's going to have to use that perfect execution to escape, and Bad's going to chase him there. Finds himself face-to-face with Evil Lobster, but Evil Lobster's level 4. Not sure that he can win this. He's going to go in onto Pee-wee now. Pee-wee taken very low. Mark Boots over the wall. Going to throw out this Glacial Prison. If he can land it onto Pee-wee, it's going to be a kill. And there's the Wind Becomes Lightning to close it out. Well, he's stuck there. Following it up with his own ultimate. Evil Lobster is going to go down as well. 5 kills to Bad overall. And meanwhile, Flying Oyster going for an all-in the top lane. Going to chunk I Stole Christmas to about half HP. But big wins in the mid lane for TA. This mid-jungle duo are just dominating Miami.
I mean, patience is such a virtue is just ringing out in my ears. Every one of those last 3 kills has been a bit bad in Mark Boots. Buying time, allowing Pee-wee, allowing Evil Lobster to waste their abilities, trying to kill off the Xin Zhao, and just right when you think the fight's over, they turn the dial up to 100 there. A long-range snipe with that staff from a bit bad to take away the Akali. And Mark Boots, we all thought he was going to throw that Glacial Prison trying to get the kill onto Pee-wee. No, he bides his own time and takes the fight to Evil Lobster with their own ultimate. It's just beautiful League of Legends, and boy, do they have a lead. They're pushing forward now.
Oh, that's a big hook landed onto Beans. He's not even going to use the flash. He knows he's destined to die. Loki Dosi going to be able to finish off that kill. Now Mark Boots is looking to lock down onto Pee-wee over the wall. Pee-wee will be able to find a move out of there, but that's a dragon. That's another kill, and that's Bad continuing to dominate the map. First kill for TA that doesn't end up going to Bad.
And it goes exactly where you want it to on the Loki Dosi. Got a little dicey. The flash was nearly in time, but it ends up being the one of the worst pains in League of Legends when you flash, but the auto still comes across. I don't care how little range Lucian has, Gordo. It registered and it gave that Lucian a kill. And trading in the mid lane is still going to commence. Mark Boots a lot more comfortable, but you talk about now maybe every lane has a lead, and we haven't seen much out of top lane from Flying Oyster, but he isn't getting it done in the kill department. Still a near 30 CS lead, which is enough to give him a gold lead of his own.
Yeah, every time we've paid a visit up here, I Stole Christmas has just been getting bullied. The ultimates coming down have really chunked him down to low HP. He's done a great job, Flying Oyster that is, of managing to find these vulnerable points and really exploiting this matchup up against the Gangplank. Now, I Stole Christmas, he's got the Sheen complete. He's trying to farm up the Silver Serpents. He'll be able to scale into the later game for sure. And as long as he doesn't give up the kills, shouldn't be completely unsustainable, but Flying Oyster with a solid lead will be able to at least keep this Gangplank down.
And look at this, snowballing. Leads don't just come through kills. Yeah, sure, you're 5-0-1 with, what was that, probably an 8-minute gore drinker on Bad's Xinjiao, but he's doing a really good job controlling neutral objectives. You saw before that kill came across onto its beans, they secured the first Infernal Drake. And now, with all this map control, this map pressure that they have across these solo lanes, they're both ahead. They're able to secure Rift Herald. The good teams know how. The good teams know how to control their leads and their gold leads. The great teams push them towards neutral objectives.
Yeah, Pee-wee chunked out once again here. Lands the Shuriken flip, but can't take it. This Turk is just waiting there to knock him up, to pull him in, and to get another kill for Mark Boots if he oversteps. So just making his presence known. Turk now will get spotted by Evil Lobster. This could be an opportunity for Miami. They're locking down on the Blitzcrank. They chunk him out pretty low. Beans is over the wall. Turk fails to get the flash over the wall, but does manage to land the hook. Evil Lobster going to finish that one off, but now Bad is in the middle of three, and he is just so fed. Demolishes its Beans and finishes off the kill on a Lobster. Now chasing down on a Militant. I just don't think that he's going to be able to get out of this one. That's going to be another double kill for Bad, and it ends up being 3 kills for the support. Miami just falling further and further behind.
That's just so unfortunate, Gordo, because that's a great play, and they unfortunately had a bit bad clearing bot side jungle. I mean, if his top side is open right there, that's a free kill onto the Blitzcrank, and you're able to maybe even farm some more plates. But instead, you have this stupidly fed Xinjiao rotate over at just the right time, claim all the kills, and he's looking potentially for more.
Yeah, I mean, he can just keep fighting this. He does not have to fear the Nami-Sejuani duo, especially not with Loki Dosi at his back. He doesn't have the ultimate, but he does have the Gore Drinker. Is going to be able to go legendary as he finishes off on Evil Lobster. Now trying to fight his way through onto Pee-wee, but Pee-wee will have the damage to execute him down. Shut down to that Akali. That is 1,000 gold in the pocket of the Miami mid laner, and he is now their focus for trying to get their way back into the game.
1,000 gold shutdowns at 10 minutes. Who had that on their bingo card for game 1 of this semifinals? I certainly didn't. Absolutely crazy as Pee-wee.
All right, in a brawl, one-on-one with Mark Boots. Not favored in this one, but at least until they get to spend the money. We'll actually have a little bit of a gold lead over their lane opponent. The 1,000 gold shutdown will work some miracles for you there, but not going to be realizing that advantage quite yet. Mark Boots trading underneath the turret. Its Beans is here for the backup. As long as he doesn't get hit by the bubble, he should be fine. Does dodge away on that one and is still looking for some action. Meanwhile, Turk in the bottom is going to knock up on a Militant. That's going to be an easy kill in the 2 versus 1. Disrespectful from the Caitlyn there. No flash available. Just steps up under the turret with no vision.
Listen, Militant, be Gordo. We can disrespect the compositional pick of that bottom lane, but you can't step that far up just like Pee-wee here.
Yeah, Pee-wee, he's still under his turret. Mark Boots is actually taking the aggro. Might end up going down here. Pee-wee has played this very well, dodging out on every ability he needs to, getting both targets very low. Now, Bad, he's not done yet. Bad getting a little disrespected here. Boots will dive underneath the turret and manage to make it a 1-for-1. It feels like that was a little bit more about the principle of the thing than it was about building up an advantage, but TA, they'll trade 1-for-1.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Gordo. They knew that they had failed the initial dive. As Bad does not care who is on the map right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've called this out once before, and I'll call it out again. Up against the 2 versus 1 when it's Sejuani Nami, I don't think Bad really has to care about this. He can keep fighting up against those two. They do not have enough damage in the tank between the two of them to work their way through his health bar plus his Gore Drinker. They just don't. So he's going to end up winning that trade. Evil Lobster is going to be very low, and he's going to eventually stroll his way out of there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just crazy that he can still take those fights. He was a little hesitant about the 3v1, so can at least some respect going over to the Redhawks here. But sneakily, you know, Pee-wee, yeah, sure, got dove towards mid lane, died again. But you talk about that 1,000 gold shutdown, picked up the trade kill. He's able to grab that rocket belt. A little bit of gold onto this Akali. If there's any sort of shining light through the big, dark doors that is TA Vikings and a bit Bad is the main giant in front of it, it's going to be this Akali. Unfortunately, though, Gordo, out of all the 80 carries that Akali can potentially jump on, Loki Dosi's humming one of the most mobile ones with this solution.
Yeah, for sure, as long as he keeps himself at a safe distance. He's got the Gale Force as well for a little bit of extra distance. So has moved away from that, you know, bought the Serrated Dirk early, but isn't rushing into any lethality items. Wanted to get that Mythic first. This is going to be bad transitioning his lead into the second dragon. Nobody could challenge him on this side of the map by any means. So we'll be getting Miami down 0-2 in the dragon game. Flying Oyster, meanwhile, has not really extended his lead over I Stole Christmas. I Stole Christmas catching up pretty nicely here, working his way towards that mythic, and maybe a potential scaling option if the Miami Redhawks can last that long.
Yeah, certainly one of the few that can outscale this Fiora. His mid lane might get a little dicey. Plates dropped, and oh boy.
Yeah, Bad has found Pee-wee in the bush, going to chunk him out a little bit, but not going to be able to fight him while he's in the Shroud, so going to be about an even trade there, mid laner and jungler. So Pee-wee now has gotten to spend that shutdown gold that he got, so he's probably got a tiny bit of an advantage over Mark Boots. Mark Boots, though, doesn't respect that advantage. He's willing to fight him 1 versus 1 anyway, as Bad dives over the wall, finds his way onto Evil Lobster. They are going to be trading back and forth, but this duo, the Sejuani Nami, it just doesn't have it, especially not when Blitzcrank yanks him over the wall and picks up another kill. That one going over to Loki Dosi. TA Vikings going to get themselves the mid lane turret.
Evil Lobster just got to understand the game stay a little bit longer. You had full vision on Turk and company. You knew that they were right around the corner there. Just no point in trading with, yeah, like you talked about, that Nami being the only one there. And, oh, I Stole Christmas, buddy.
1 versus 3, tries to flash away. Bad is underneath the turret, though. Thinks he can sustain through it with his damage, with his Gore Drinker, but not quite going to be enough there. I Stole Christmas. He eats oranges. He stays alive at the cost of his own flash, but he will probably lose his turret for this one.
Don't worry, Team Vision Faithful. It looks like a bit bad did figure out there are 3 lanes in this game. That was the first time he pathed it all towards top, all jokes aside. Didn't really have to, but... Ew, yeah, TP coming through.
Trying to collapse with Evil Lobster and might be successful at it here. Flying Oyster gets locked down, but actually just so much movement speed. There's that Ghost. Called it out in Champion Select. He did take it into the game, and it's going to be enough to get him to safety here. Evil Lobster expending ultimate. I Stole Christmas expending TP. And all they're going to get for it is keeping their turret alive.
Yep, now Mark Boots will match to try and stall this gangplank out a little bit. I was curious to see if Evil Lobster and Beans would roll over, but they're actually going to look for a pick on the Loki Dosi. It is a nice shutdown still.
Yeah, he's got the Gale Force in the dash, so he's going to be very tough to find, although they do get him with the Arctic Assault. No ultimates to follow, though, and now Loki Dosi, he's turning this one around. Here comes Pee-wee on the flank. Bad, willing to challenge him to that 1 versus 1. TP coming in from Flying Oyster, going to immediately riposte the bubble, but the damage is still there. Pee-wee dashing backward, getting disengaged from this fight, has expended the flash. Militant expends the heal. Nobody ends up going down.
An interesting thing to watch going forward when we talk about Pee-wee and how he's kind of still in this game from a gold standpoint. When you think about the composition of TA Vikings and their most fed members, right? They're all auto attack based in any sort of damage they could possibly do, maybe outside of Loki Dosi's culling, right, Gordo? So when that Shroud goes down, a bit bad can't get any damage out onto the Akali, and Lucian certainly can't either, but neither of them are going for this top lane play.
Yeah, underneath the turret, 1 versus 2. No turret for protection now for I Stole Christmas, and he's about to give up his first death of the game. Well behind the rest of his team in that department, but we'll get it eventually as Flying Oyster in a 1 versus 2 here, trying to fight this one out, but he doesn't have a Gore Drinker or anything. He's gone for the Divine Sunder. He will end up dropping to Evil Lobster and Pee-wee as they manage to claw themselves something back in the bottom lane.
That's another kill over for Pee-wee, and that's also another member of TA Vikings that's super auto attack reliant on all of their AD damage, which is, you know, you usually see from AD champions nonetheless. But I'm really intrigued to see going forward how well Pee-wee can play around that Shroud, because he might be able to do really good damage, avoiding this Xin Zhao, this Lucian, and this Fiora. But the real news right now, Shelly breaking the base open for the Vikings.
Yep. Pretty early inhibitor turret dropping here for the side of the TA Vikings. They are very close to starting to knock on those Nexus doors and cleverly not taking the inhibitor. I don't know if they had too much of a choice in the matter, but also generally not the best move to take the inhibitors before Baron spawns, as it's hard to convert it into objectives and means that there's going to be a lot of gold funneling into the other team. So this time around, they're going to not end up taking it, and Dragon number 3 now going to be our focus.
I could hear LS screaming in my head, "Don't take the inhibitor," as Shelly was knocking on it. It is a smart strategy nonetheless for exact reasons you outlined there, Gordo. So, but it also means they already have an opening into the base when Baron comes around, and we didn't really get a touch on it too much yet, but TAV, they took both the opening Drakes, and oh boy, were they rewarded, because it's going to be a Hextech Soul, which is what I would argue maybe tied for the most powerful soul in the game. So cards are all up TAV right now as we hit the top side.
Yeah, it's up there for sure. As Mark Boots finds himself in a 1 versus 2, flashes away, so being very respectful to the duo of Pee-wee and Evil Lobster, as he should. Pee-wee's got quite a bit of burst damage here, but seeing jungler top, that means Bad is getting onto Soul Point for free here. They will be able to pick up the top lane turret, so maybe a little bit less free. They do get an objective bounty off of that, but they're down 10k gold, and that is going to put the TA side at Soul Point. Now a brawl in the top lane. Mark Boots ending up missing a couple of skills here. Pee-wee gets a lot more damage out of it, but now here comes Flying Oyster over the wall, throwing down the grand challenge. Can Pee-wee make this into a 1-for-1? He can, with some assistance from I Stole Christmas as that shutdown gets picked up, but it is going to be a 1-for-1 as Flying Oyster executes the enemy mid laner.
The mirroring of this top lane matchup continues. They each have a death, and they both have a kill now with the Cannon Barrage steal away. But yeah, you mentioned it, 10k gold, and they have to find some sort of opening back into this one somehow. It's going to have to come through some of these shutdowns.
Yeah, there's another ace in the hole landed onto Loki Dosi. And there's the ultimate from Evil Lobster. Nice dodge away off the Relentless Pursuit. Doesn't mean that that's a crucial engage tool that will be down for a little while. There's not really any objectives to fight over unless TA want to get their Baron shoes on early on. But Evil Lobster going to be without that tool for a time.
Yeah, and it gives us some time to make, as a bit of a lull comes across the old Summoners Rift. Take a look at some of these itemization options. I was curious to see, when you talk about heal cut still so powerful right now, especially in the hands of mages. I've been seeing so many tweets about rushing Oblivion Orb for, countering some of this healing, how much worth that brings in a gold standard. And, well, Pee-wee, second item after Mythic, immediately going for the Morellonomicon. Good purchase, especially against Fiora and Silas. And speaking of the former there, Mark Boots might get into another entanglement with Pee-wee, but should have backup.
Bad is here, and Bad sees where Pee-wee is, immediately just going to throw down the perfect execution, but the chain CC might be too much. He does dash away, he does stay alive, and now the rest of his team is here for backup. A numbers advantage for Miami as they focus down onto Bad, but he's just moving forward, flashing in, going for a huge board drinker, and taking down Militant, as well as Pee-wee. He stays alive, will eventually drop, but he's already won the team fight for his team. Here comes Loki Dosi off the flank with a huge culling, and that's going to be the ace picked up for Team Ambition Vikings as they look to bust open the base and take game number 1.
Bust open the base. Yeah, take game 1 might be it here. You have an open inhibitor in top lane. You just knocked down mid. The minion wave isn't great, but they might be able to walk in and end this game here. Militant is only the closest one to coming up, but Nami and Caitlyn pretty far behind currently, but the minions spawn at the right time. They don't have enough of a wave. They see the neutral objective, so they'll just walk away with what was a beautifully masterful fight there. It's the patience again, Gordo, right? Maybe a little bit too gutsy in the beginning, going for Pee-wee's Akali, who's able to utilize perfect execution to get out of there. But after that, they bide their time, they utilize that Crescent Guard so a bit back can take as much damage, and that turn to that Gore Drinker was poetic in so many ways. Hits 4 members, heals up just enough, and it was all in time for Loki Dosi. This was currently 2.5 item down Lucian to pull up and flank with a culling for the ages. TA Vikings, maybe they had a bye week, Gordo, but they don't look rusty at all.
Fantastic run so far in this game number 1, and yeah, gonna be very tough to come back from this now if you're Miami. They are down 13,000 gold. There's a Baron buff on the menu, and even challenging for this one is going to be incredibly tough. But Evil Lobster, he's got to do it. He's got to try to find some way to get his team some gold back into this game. 4k HP, but they are just going to go for this lockdown angle onto Beans. He gets blown up before the fight even starts. Now trying to trade back on Flying Oyster. It will be a 4 versus 4 over this Baron. Focusing now on the Evil Lobster a bit bad. Get all the damage down onto that pig, and he just takes him out. Now focusing on the Militant, and they're just getting picked off here on the side of Miami. Torn apart by the roster of TA Vikings as they are going to look to claim this Baron.
Even with such an astronomical gold lead at about 13,000, his boy Mark Boots isn't done.
Oh, all right. Looking to find a way on the I Stole Christmas here. Can't quite get the trade on himself, and he is burning down. Now over the wall, Pee-wee looking to clean this one up. He's going to find himself face-to-face with Loki Dosi. He flashes away. Does he have the Gale Force as well for a little bit of extra distance? He might just need it here as Pee-wee wants the shutdown at all costs, but it just doesn't look like he's going to be able to find it. He will find himself with a few other TA Vikings, though, as Bad finishes that kill off.
Yeah, at all costs meant back to the gray screen for you, Gordo. Man, that was that was a reach and a half. But back to my main point there, as he got muffled up a little bit with Mark Boots going for another trade. It's hilarious to see. It's hilarious to think that even with this 15,000 gold lead, TAV, we talked about how they don't really have a comp where they want to go for a brute force 5v5. They want to separate things, even in their team fights. What was that all about around the Baron Pit? It was separation. You had Flying Oyster grabbing the attention of Pee-wee off to the top side. You had the rest of the team split a little bit more bottom side. Evil Lobster was caught a little too far forward. They split its beans up going for wards. And speaking of Evil Lobster, it's about to be cooked lobster.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much movement speed there. Not going to be able to dash their way out of that one. Evil Lobster is going to drop. And now Loki Dosi just looking for some great chunk damage there on the I Stole Christmas as he's on the split push. And I Stole Christmas, he's got to get back to the base right now because there's a 4 versus 3 push onto his Nexus. Militant nearly gets one shot by the Abscond Abduct from Mark Boots, and now they can just pull in Pee-wee, shut down the one threat, and finish off game number 1. Dragon Soul at their back, Baron Buff at their back, 27-9 on the kill score and a 13k gold lead. Team Ambition Vikings come out with a statement and go up 1-0 in our semifinals.
Oh man, what a game 1 from the Vikings here. It was all up Team Ambition from start to finish, honestly. I mean, there was no part of their game except for a couple of maybe over-aggressive, I guess, overzealous advances from a bit Bad and Mark Boots trying to get a couple pick plays. But man, did they dictate the tempo from the get-go. They picked a comp where not only were they gonna have to play hard early in lanes, but they're gonna have to play together in skirmish situations. We said that from the jump. We were questioning that Blitzcrank pick in the bottom lane. That looked pretty solid, especially once they got to break apart and you could send Turk playing along with that Silas and that Fen Xinjiao. There's not much to say, Gordo, because it was just a stomp by all accords for the Vikings.
Certainly was there, and you know, our predictions end up being wrong. We cast or curse it a little bit, but I will say I gave a little bit of a disclaimer that it's unless Bad can make some magic happen. Abracadabra Slayer. I mean, he's so far ahead in this game, gets such a massive lead early on, and there's just nothing that can be done about it from the Miami side at that point. So maybe the Xinjiao on the ban list coming in for the rest of the series. Hard to tell.
Yeah, I think if you give any champion in the jungle their mythic item at 8 minutes, it's going to spell disaster. So that certainly is what happened there. But yeah, you talked about it. It seems right now like a bit Bad is really the X factor for this team. That's normally what you see from this level of play. You know, the jungler can be just so impactful across the rift, and it was really awesome to see him link up with Mark Boots. You just know with such a veteran player like Mark Boots was calling for those ganks, you know, making sure that a bit Bad knew exactly what the lane state was. And yeah, Pee-wee did mess up maybe on the first gank, not, you know, holding on to that flash and getting hit by that first chain set from Silas. But outside of that, it really was just flawless execution in the mid lane between those two. And if they're playing like that as a duo, there's not much you can do if you're the Redhawks.
Absolutely not. We'll see what their plan is for the rest of the series as soon as we're back. But we're going to throw to a quick break here while we get into draft for game number 2. We will see you all over there as Team Ambition continues to take games off of, or take games against, rather, the side of Miami.
Find everyone, but there's the kill. Unbound, he's doing it all. Unbound, doing it all. Give it out, Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think we win the team fight.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it, get it, get it, get it.
where like the cleavage is, where like the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Redhawks going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. I've seen. Nice. Okay, then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta, honestly. You have one more? You can't die with it. It's gonna get dog.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god!
Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force guy, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys got it?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think we win the team fight.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Divine League, where the Miami University Redhawks have selected blue side for game number 2 up against the TA Vikings, looking to see if a side swap will improve their odds here coming into game number 2.
Yeah, certainly be interesting. Obviously, whenever you go for blue side, the first thing that screams out to you is we have a priority for the first pick. So what are you going to do here when it comes to, when you're coming off of, an absolute drubbing? I mean, I'm not going to mince words here for any Redhawks fans. That last game was pretty hard to watch, and I'm curious to see if maybe they'll prioritize a more meta champion or maybe lean towards some sort of comfort pick that was banned away. As we get through bans, though, it's looking at sort of a similar stature, maybe not the similar order on by either side, but Graves taken away from a bit bad again, and the Respect Rise ban, it's at least hovered, Gordo, but I expect to be locked in.
Yeah, they're keeping the same bans, at least on the TA Vikings side. For Miami, they are going to adopt this Lucian ban, so they decide, hey, you know what? TA are willing to first pick the Lucian, like they did last game, and apparently they can have success whether they get to pair it with the Nami or not. So they're going to have to throw that tactic out the window and see what they can go for in the rest of this series. The Caitlyn going to be banned away as well, so 2 new marksmen sure to be hitting the Rift in our second game of the night, as Miami did pick up the Aatrox ban last game. This time, TA are going to be the ones biting that bullet, which means Poppy is up this time around.
It also means Yumi is up because that was banned away on the red side by the Redhawks. So, along with the Aatrox, it was those that if you had to wager what were 2 of the top 5 favorite blue side first picks in the current meta, Yumi and Aatrox would be on that list. Maybe they're not the top ones, but they're both on that list. So no surprises there that now they go and they pick up the Yumi. It's always intriguing when you ban the champion you helmed, but with with Yumi in mind, it makes a ton of sense. They also banned Caitlyn away. Really well placed AD carry right now in the meta. Was thought as a really good AD carry going into Worlds. AD carry that a lot of people didn't think that was that strong in the meta going into the Worlds, then exploded, was the Varus. I love this answer if you are the TA Viking.
Yeah, no, so that one's going to be locked in here. TA bring out the Varus with the big 280 carries we saw in game number 1 taken off the board. Now, what are they going to pair with it? Do they want to try to take an early jungler? They do, as they lock in that Viego. to look to carry them again after a fantastic performance from Bad in game number 1, and not surprised at all to see them prioritizing him here in this game number 2.
And Viego plays in such a similar style to Xin Zhao. I mean, it's interchangeable in a lot of ways. Maybe, Crescent Guard versus Heartbreaker, the two ultimates are a lot different possessions versus, just more tanky bruiser aspect, but it's still, I have a one big stun, one big knockup to lock down a single target, and I'm going to try and blow up that single target. So similar styles nonetheless. Something that isn't similar in playstyle, and also that I don't see too often. Gordo, I'm sure you've heard me mention how much I adore Ezreal. I love playing Ezreal. Don't know how he works with Yuumi.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lane for a while when, like, Yuumi was still newer and Ezreal was still a big part of the meta. It's very poke heavy. It's very safe. I mean, it's like having a blink on both characters, because you get to just attach yourself to the Ezreal, and then he's going to be arcane shift into safety anytime anybody shows up. So really going to be able to, at the very least, assume that they're going to not end up dying into too many ganks. It's going to be very tough for Bad, especially on the Viego, to find angles down here to try to kill this Ezreal Yuumi. It also kind of preempts that Blitzcrank pick. If that's a big pick for Turk in this series, following some of the buffs it got a couple patches ago, not a duo that you want to pick it against for sure.
Yeah, certainly a safe pick. When it comes to team fighting, though, Ezreal, I feel in a lot of ways plays a little too far back in the, obviously with his design kit to really warrant Yuumi sticking on him. So when it comes to team fights, if you're looking to see Beans play more proactively, expect this Yuumi to jump on maybe a more frontline champion. The Sylas is the only one we have selected besides the bottom lane. It does work to hop onto Pee-wee sometimes to set up with that final chapter, so a little bit of different, interesting dichotomy. And as we get through the second phase of bans here, it's still top lane prio for TAV, because they know I stole Christmas. He likes to pick later in the draft, so Camille and Fiora taking off the bat, and it's going to be Turk targets, TT, if you will allow me, in the second phase of bans with Nautilus and Karma, which does leave the opening. I'm going to call my shot hopefully really quickly. Renata works so well with Varus, so I would love to see Turk pair the hostile takeover with those, I believe, Chains of Corruption, or is that Morgana?
No, it's Chains of Corruption. Yeah, it's Soul Shackles is Morgana, but the Soraka getting hovered here, that'd be an interesting one as well. I know Turk plays the Renata. I've seen his Renata before on the TA Black era, although this Soraka pretty powerful in her own right, and especially up against this Ezreal Yuumi, maybe that's the selection. Yeah, this might be a little bit of a life hack. If you're trying to find a way to gank the Ezreal Yuumi lane, you can throw down that silence field, turn off the arcane shift. That might be the way that you could do it. We'll see. So Mark Boots' Azir, called that out earlier on. This champion is one that he's very adept on, and facing off against the Sylas, he's going to be looking to use that range advantage to its fullest. A Mumu locked in. Ooh. That's got to be jungle.
Has to. There's no way around it. So you're going to have Evil Lobster on a Mumu. That's another target I think you can sync up very well for team fights with Final Chapter, and I think that's even more amplified because now the Redhawks, they don't really have a comp that's going to play backwards. They have a comp that in fights is going to play forwards, but oh boy, Gordo, I think they're going to be fighting 4 versus 5 because I Stole Christmas. We know exactly what this guy likes to get up to on that Jax.
Absolutely here. It is going to be blind Jax, but, Fiora's banned, Camille's banned. A lot of these top laners that you generally see into the Jax are banned away. So maybe just going to look to weak side it this time around for Flying Oyster. The Maokai is what gets locked in. So just going to be looking to go even with the Jax, maybe push him away, make sure he's not going to be taking any turrets, and sustaining up all that you need to up against this guy. So like the strategy there from the TA Vikings. Feels like there's not a ton of places to go for Bad other than mid lane. But, he had a ton of success going mid lane in game number 1, so I don't know if he's going to be too upset about that fact.
Yeah, and also Viego, I feel like, is more okay with farming up in early game versus a Xin Zhao, so it makes a lot of sense that maybe he just wants to be a little more farm heavy. I always love when you pick, speaking on Viego, when you select Viego, I always love pairing him up with a tanky weak side top lane. So I actually am glad that despite being on red side, the nature of that final pick is to, you gotta counter, maybe pick an aggressive lane. No, the nerves are of steel for the Vikings. Flying Oyster picks a weak side Maokai because not only does it help his team out, but it's got really good survivability against this Jax as well going forward. So, I mean, last draft, Gordo, we weren't the biggest fans of Team Ambition Vikings' draft, and they absolutely stomped. I'm certainly a fan of their draft this time around. So what does that mean for the game state?
I mean, I think it means that maybe we aren't getting the 5 games we expected. If we want an update on where my predictions are, I think TA looked fantastic in that game number 1. And it's going to be hard to predict against them throughout the rest of this. So, if we're talking about our predictions for game number 2, I got to be going for TA Vikings again. I love this draft that they put together for themselves. I'm a big fan of Mark Boots as Azir. I think he's a fantastic performer on that one. He can often get fights started. I think Maokai is great. In general, I think the ability to fish for engages on that. He's kind of like an Ornn 2.0 in that way. I think Bad on the Viego's good. I'm looking forward across the board to seeing this comp get executed.
Yeah, I apologize to Ambition Vikings. I will not pick against you either after game 1 at all. I will also pick the Vikings, but I will play devil's advocate just like Gordo did last time with the Xinjiao, which worked out as a caveat for him picking against the Vikings. My caveat for picking against the Redhawks is outside of Maokai, they're going to be squishy, and you have the tools in your tool bag to get on top of this back line, this Soraka, this Varus, and this Azir. So if Evil Lobster now on the other side can do really well in this Amumu, you pair him up with the Yuumi final chapter and Curse of the Sad Mummy onto that back line. Man, will this Ezreal get the job done from distance, and Pee-wee will have the damage on Sylas. So in team fights, there is an angle in this game for them to run absolutely wild as long as they don't suffer as terrible of an early game as they did in game 1.
Yeah, there absolutely is here. And, they've got some safety, especially in the bottom lane now. I'm just not crazy about a Mumu in the jungle. That's kind of my concern here. It feels pretty one-dimensional. The double snares with your Q, they helped him out a lot of support because they let you kind of go in for this engage and then go up for this follow-up, or, go in and then choose to back off or after you get your damage, anything like that. It doesn't do too much for your gank potential out of the jungle, as if you miss one, your opportunity is going to be gone, and if you hit one, in theory, that's always been enough anyway. So we'll see how it ends up working out. The farming also isn't super fast, at least compared to the Viego, so we'll see what Evil Lobster can make happen with it. I mean, it's a good old reliable jungler, don't get me wrong, but it's just it's not what I'm looking for in the current meta when you have stuff like this Viego that can really just pop off and carry the entire game. And Bad just did that same thing on Xinjiao last game. So I think you got to be looking to try to control this guy, and I don't know if Amumu's the pick to do that.
Yeah, as much as I love I Stole Christmas as Jax, I don't know how it slots into this ideology of a team fight comp in a way with Amumu. I mean, you can team fight 4v4 with this comp, or 4v5 even potentially if Jax can't pull anybody, depending on the situation. But maybe you want to pick a more tankier top lane that has some engage tools along with the Amumu to pair up with that instead of a Jax who wants to be on an island. I still think there's going to be an angle, but it doesn't help that also TAV, the ultimates that they can use in team fights to disengage and protect the Soraka are very prevalent. I mean, usually with Sorakas, you want 2 pillars of tanks around them, or maybe a big bruiser next to the Soraka as well. From a pure face value, the composition isn't great for protecting the Soraka, but Nature's Grasp is one of the best ultimates in the game at creating distance, and Azir's Wall. You love to see it used for Shurima shuffles and setting up pick plays, but it also could be really good to shut in a Mumu running at you down. So maybe not the biggest amount of pure bodies at the front line to protect the Soraka and Varus, but the ultimates and not the projectiles, the ultimates coming out of some of these guys on TAV are good enough that I think they'll be able to protect Turk and company very, very well.
Definitely agree with you there. So let's get onto the Rift and check it out. We are going to throw it to another break while we get loaded in, but we will see you on the other side as the Miami University Redhawks take on the TA Vikings for the second time tonight.
where like the cleavage is, where like the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Redhawks going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. I have tissue, I have tissue. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You never know. You can't die with this. It's gonna get dogged.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god!
Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Box Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Box Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force dive, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think we win the team fight.
nice.
Oh my god.
Get it!
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Divine League, where Miami University Redhawks are taking on Team Ambition Vikings. They are down 0-1 right now, but it's a new game. It is a new day, a new chance to try to take this series a little bit further. They will still have at least one more game after this one, as it is a best of 5, but would certainly rather not be down 0-2.
Yeah, certainly don't want to, and it looks like they're going to be a bit more aggressive already off the bat when you talk about summoners, and I want to highlight the bottom lane from Militant and Beans here, because there's two sort of schools of idea when it comes to Ezreal and Yuumi right now, and you can already see through the rune choices which ones these bot lanes are going for. When it comes to Ezreal, PTA for that early damage prowess and trading in lane, or you can go Conqueror for sustain when it comes to later team fights. Militant goes for PTA, and Beans, Yuumi obviously can go for, maybe a Moonstar Renewer, a lot more healing and shield based, or she can rock the Comet and go very heavily AP early on for extra pokes. So it looks like Miami University, they want to be as aggressive as their bottom lane duel allows them early on in this lane with both of those summoner choices, or rune choices, excuse me.
Absolutely here. It's now going to be an early little advantage for Loki Doses. He lands a nice little hail of arrows there. And Turk going to be able to match the sustain that this Yuumi brings to the table. So definitely going to be one to keep an eye on as the 2v2s break on out here. Turk doing a good job of landing the Starfalls and getting that health back where he needs it. Does look like it's going to be a full clear for both junglers, as Bad has moved his way back up towards the Krugs to make sure he is going to be able to complete that level 4 clear. But bot lane's actually still going. Militant forced to flash away there. Not really going to have access to too much sustain from that Yuumi yet. And Turk's got some damage as well. They are going to be very much on the back foot off the back of that one.
Yeah, well, you know, you could pick to play aggressive early from Rune Choices, Gordo, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the favorable trades. And man, Turk is on fire with these Qs on the Soraka and Loki Dosi. Not all that damage early comes from Varus's piercing arrow. You can get it done with that flurry of arrows from over top, and forcing that flash out from Militant early is going to be key. And it's already showing shades of game one. We'll just see when a bit bad decides to get onto the Rift and stop farming up, which I will say, though, does still bode well for a Viego pick.
Definitely does here. Is still just looking for these piercing arrows here, just trying to keep Militant low, keep him on the back foot. They don't have any summoner heal, and he has done a good job of keeping himself, getting himself back up, though. Chugs down all 3 of his potions. So that is a massive potion disadvantage for sure. But at the very least, he's not at risk of just dying to a stray arrow as he was for a couple of minutes there. Evil Lobster paths towards the bottom lane, does get spotted on that ward. Bad is a little bit ahead of him in the clear, so he's looking for the double scuttle here. And it looks like he's going to be able to get it.
Yeah, he will set himself up pretty well in a farm stance, and it really goes back to that bot lane pressure, right? Because I don't think Evil Lobster really wanted to have to go hover bottom lane. He certainly, I don't think, wanted to have to set up a recall maybe towards the bot side. And he does to protect his Ezreal and Yuumi. So, you know, advantages can come in obvious ways. Oh,
they're just going all in down here, and with no flash, there's nowhere for Militant to go. First blood in the 2-on-2. Turk and Loki Dosi take down Militant's Ezreal, and it might be a safe bot lane in terms of ganks, but if you're losing out in the 2-on-2 trades, there's no escaping from that one.
Wow, yeah, and you know, I was about to say leads come in obvious ways with kills, but, well, now I don't have to say but, because Loki Dosi grabs first blood for an obvious lead there, and we'll be able to shove in a pretty substantial wave. This is very, very ideal for the Vikings bottom lane, and pretty disastrous for Miami University, because that bottom lane, like you talked about, so safe. They wanted to farm up, and now they drop first blood, and it looks like, you know, this Viego will be allowed to farm up. It's also going to create so much more room.
All right, Mark Boots and Pee-wee trading back and forth here. Mark Boots taking a rough end of that one. Loses a lot of HP. Might have to recall and expend his teleport here pretty soon. We'll see if Bad comes around to make sure that he is going to be able to get that reset. I do have to call out something here about the runes. Pee-wee going for first strike here seems nuts to me. How are you ever going to trigger first strike against this Azir? Oh, wait a second. Actually, I stole Christmas and Oyster. They're a little all in here. All right, they are finally going to back away.
Yeah, Flying Oyster's been doing a really good job keeping tempo with these waves, because as strong as Jax can get, he can be a little bit more weaker, and Flying Oyster with that grasp and that passive healing from this Maokai can sustain more on this Jax lane. But you raise a great point. I can't believe I missed that. I was so focused. Of course, I get too focused on the Ezreal. I mean, that's just nature of my favorite champion. But Pee-wee, first strike makes very, very little sense. I'm curious to see what sort of gold tallies he ends up getting off of first strike, but good trades nonetheless with Mark Boots. And as we kind of settle in at the 6-minute mark, it's a 1K gold lead, but you do got to commend Pee-wee here for keeping up and farm. And this Amumu maybe fell behind a little bit more, but here he's trying to make it up for it.
Flying Oyster does have access to the flash. Great ultimate there. Lands the snare onto both. And Evil Lobster, he's looking to keep this play going, but I Stole Christmas, he doesn't really have the follow-up. He used the leap strike. He can't close that gap. And Flying Oyster, not even expending the flash, will survive this gank. He is going to be 1 versus 2 as the push is starting to come in, but, you know, he's just going to look to keep this wave away from his turret for as long as he can. He regens with the Sap Magic. He's so safe.
He's very safe. I'm actually surprised a bit Bad didn't immediately turn to go for Drake there. I thought that might be enough of a green light. Instead, he's going to just steal away camps here. The match will come across because Evil Lobster is timing this perfectly for his invade, so he actually will be able to steal away the red buff from a bit Bad, but a gank is so hard for him to do. You talked about how hard it is to gank Yuumi Ezreal, especially once you have all these abilities, and now he'll finally call for the Drake. And yeah, sure, maybe you're losing a red buff, but you'll take a Hex Tech this early on any day for that buff.
Yeah, Mark Boots is pinging that Pee-wee's missing, although they're going to find each other here. The shove back, simultaneous ultimates, but Pee-wee ends up under the turret. That's going to be pretty bad for you, buddy, as Mark Boots ends up picking up the solo kill there as the two bounce off each other.
For like half a second, I thought Mark Boots had like lagged out or something. He's just standing so still. He's pinging a bit for his team as the leader he is. But wow, how often do you get to see that interaction? They both shove each other at exactly the same times, and unfortunately, Pee-wee a little too close to the turret for comfort.
Oh, that's the snare landed on a Militant. He has to use the cleanse there to stay alive. Crucial dodge on the piercing arrow. Militant is 100% dead if he doesn't do that little sidestep back to dodge.
Well, he's still dead in the water in this lane, though. Yeah, good dodge, but man, this CS discrepancy is going to get worse now. You're already down, what, that's about to be 20, and you're still, because of the wave state, Milton's forced to stay around. He doesn't want to see another wave crash, another gold play go across over to Loki, Dosi, and Turk. It's just gone from bad to worse in this bot lane now, a bit bad. He's feeling comfortable enough to invade, but might get punished.
Game goes from bad to worse. Red buff just goes to bad as he's looking to secure this one. He does get it, but now can he find the escape? Dodges away on that bandage toss, and now Turk is here with the healing. There's nothing they can do anymore. He might as well not even be low. As Mark Boots is coming in over the wall, there's the second bandage toss, lands on a Mark Boots. He's now going to have to try to find his way out of there. Great flash to find himself out of the harm's ways. Now it's going to be bad in the 1 versus 3. He's going to have to flash away after using his ultimate. Wants to try to get the reset, but can't get it quite in time. It's Beans that's going to be the one to pick up that kill, and Pee-wee manages to stay alive as well. So a nice play there by Miami. They get themselves a kill for nothing.
Yeah, it was funny, right? Because you think, oh, look at this, Vikings. We split the Redhawks up a little too much more, but one bandage toss can really change everything. Might be foreshadowing 4 fights to come ahead, and they're able to knock down this Viego, who I want to say was sitting on a lot of gold, because by that point hadn't been able to back off of a full clear of the bot side. He hadn't been able to back after the dragon take. He went right for the red buff. So he had a lot of gold in his pocket, but hadn't cashed yet, a lot weaker. And a good punish there. The caveat is that the kill goes over to It's Beans, who is looking to go pretty, support-minded. Not a ton of EP. Does have that Dark Seal that has 2 stacks now, but a kill is a kill nonetheless, and Miami University will take anything they can get by this point.
Sure, here's now they are sieging in the bottom lane. They've gotten themselves so many turret plates already, and they are just building up a higher and higher lead. This Militant has been able to return to the lane. He's looking to trade aggressively. He's pretty far up now. He's going to lose a bunch of his health. Already chunked out to less than a third. Loki Dosi's chunked out as well, but Loki Dosi, he hasn't recalled in a while. He's going to be able to get items and stuff out of this. Militant, he just got back.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up if you think, Gordo. It's going to get worse. Loki Dosi's going to have a ton more damage behind this Varus. I mean, you do have the sustain of this Yuumi now with a couple more items, and Evil Lobster's going to come up to try and set up a lane gank, but you've got to get something going in this bot lane. This Varus is going to run wild and shut anything you want to do down for the Redhawks.
Yeah, and the way the push works out, Evil Lobster can't get into the bush, so he doesn't really have an angle here. He's just got to back away and go to his Krugs.
Yeah, and when we go back topside, you're going to see this all game long. I mean, I Stole Christmas will happily jump onto Flying Oyster, and he'll just knock him right off. He's too much sustain. But here's a bit of a mirror from game 1 versus game 2. Maybe not in the kill department, but a bit bad. First Drake again, Gordo, and first bout of Shelly. Just so valuable. It doesn't really scream out on the scoreboard, especially for the gold department until Shelly drops. But being able to get that dragon stack going, especially in early Drake like Hextech, that gives you so much buffs ever since that patch came across to buzz with those solo Drakes, and uses Shelly so smart here. The bout of Rift Herald should get them even more gold lead, and they're already sitting on a 3K one as we speak. Oh, again?
Well, they go for it again, but this time Mark Boots, he gets thrown into the Amumu, but the wish from Soraka and a nice little Emperor's Divide almost gets Mark Boots out of the way, but he will end up dropping to Evil Lobster. The bandage tosses land, and it's 2-2 on the scoreboard.
It's 2-2 on the scoreboard, but the kills just aren't in the right places. Yes, it's nice to bring a bit of gold back, but it might just swing right back in favor of the Vikings.
Ooh, 3-on-3 in the bottom lane, and Bad has already completed his Blade of the Ruin King. Look at this damage, just ripping through the Amumu and now taking away the soul. He's got the bandage toss, can't quite land it on the Militant, so it is just going to end up being 1 kill, but that's going to basically even out this long trade with Mark Boots, and means that it is going to be 2-3 in the favor of the TA Vikings, and now they got a big siege in the bottom lane.
Okie Dosi perfect timed that Chains of Corruption. Curse of the Sad Mummy, right before it came out from Evil Lobster, locked down the Amumu so that even though they got stunned up, they both were stuck in the same spots they were from prior exchanges, and it was enough of room for a bit bad to finally get that kill. Just so flawless from the Vikings. You highlighted you're not going to pick against them when they're playing as flawless and fantastic as they are right now. Well, it seems like even on red side, that trend is continuing, except for some crazier Shurima shuffles from the stolen ultimate of Pee-wee.
And this has to speak to the bot gap a little bit here. They just got a kill in the bottom lane. They know that they're 3v2. There's only 2 turret plates left on the turret, and they have Rift Herald. And yet Bad doesn't throw it down, even though there's only a minute left on turret plates. Because they just want to keep bullying owner to these turrets, I guess. Like, Bad just goes over, he starts doing the dragon, and they're happy to, you know, say, hey, we'll get the first turret gold eventually, but we want these minions to keep dying to the turret, and we want to keep building up a bigger and bigger lead.
Yeah, and now they're going to move over 4 here. This is just going to sting so much for this Miami University bot lane. Look out.
All right, there's going to be Change of Corruption landed. Militant is going to cleanse and blink away, but Bad is there with the follow-up. There goes the Heartbreaker, and there's going to be the first pickup of the fight. Bad now looking to take this one further. Going to have to back himself away at least a little bit. He's got Turk for a little bit of healing, and he's got the teammates for a little bit of backup. Now, finally, Shelly going to charge on in there and pick up the first turret gold, and Bad, he just does not want to back out here. He's fallen real low, but he just feels no fear and continues to brawl it out. It's now in the top lane. This, as you said, this is going to happen all game. No one's ever going to die in it, though.
Yeah, and you know, such a great play from the Vikings is it might not be over. Bad
is going to either have to expend his flash or try to find a way to run his way out here. The stolen away ultimate from Pee-wee almost finishes him off, but the wish from Soraka is massive, as well as the summoner heal. And now it's going to be Evil Lobster trying to turn this one around. He lands a nice ultimate, but Mark Boots lands a better one, shoving in multiple members with the Emperor's Divide. Militant nearly goes down to one more piercing arrow, but will get just out of range at the very last moment. But that's still just going to be 2 kills for 0 for the Team Ambition Vikings.
It was so hard to watch. I'm pretty sure Pee-wee, you know, at least pushed a chain onto one of those small little golems trying to lock down Viego. A beautiful block. Might have even blocked and pulled a W onto one of those small little gold-based golems trying to kill a bit Bad. I was so surprised he was able to survive for so long in that exchange, and he was. And when you go back to that whole 4-man play towards the bot lane, right, Gordo, the answer is always in your head. The good teams is, all right, you have to give up one side of the map is, mid lane.
Bad just finds his way onto Pee-wee. And again, that Blade of the Rune King damage, it's not insubstantial. It's very, very strong. And so he is going to be able to pick up that kill up against Pee-wee, claims the Silas Soul, and moves his way back up towards the top side. And just like that, we are at nearly a 6K gold lead for the TA Vikings. At 15 minutes into the game, they're running away with this one just like they ran away with game number 1.
Yeah, and back to my main point here. If you're Evil Lobster, what can you do right now? Because the answer by maybe the book, in quotation marks, is if bottom lane and mid lane are so heavily prioritized by a bit Bad, you have to look topside. But you just cannot gank this Maokai. It is impossible. Flying Oyster's doing not only such a good job building very tanky like you expect from Maokai, it's hard to kill him from a pure champion standpoint, but the way he is juggling these waves where there is no threat on his life, if you watch, obviously you're going to focus on the 4-man bot play, but I watched Evil Lobster path all the way up top side, sit in the brush, ping for a gank, and all he could do was watch as this Maokai sat back and gave him no options for a return gank. It is such a chokehold the TAV are putting onto this game and this series now, looking to go up 2-0.
For sure here, as, yeah, like you said, there's so few options. You might hope that you could send this Amumu to mid lane and try to make some plays happen there, and you still maybe can, but again, the Azir is so safe. But now here's an angle that they found on a Loki Dosi. He's locked down for quite a while, but the wish, the heal, it's too much. Turk keeps his 80 carry alive.
That is insane. I mean, and so much CC. He cleansed the original stun, but then the root from the stolen ultimate from Pee-wee stole Loki Dosi's ultimate, locked him down, so the cleanse meant nothing. But that had to have been 700 bounce of health points saved by Turk, and Turk's starting to make me eat my words. I really want to see Renata with the ultimate combination of those chains of corruption, but you're starting to see why Soraka was the real choice.
Absolutely. Here is now they've found an angle onto Pee-wee. They see him a little bit too far up, and they got him in a 1 versus 2 as Bad and Mark Boots, the mid-jungle duo who've been dominating this whole series so far, are looking to claim another victim as Militant finds himself face-checking into Loki Dosi, who just has plenty of damage in his own right. And finally, Pee-wee, he's had a valiant effort, but he's not going to be able to escape as Evil Lobster goes in on a Loki Dosi, manages to land the Curse of the Sand Mummy out of 2 targets, and Turk has to be a little concerned about his own health bar, but is trying his best to keep Loki Dosi alive. There's going to be 1 kill. Can they get 2? They do manage to get 2. It's finally going to be a trade back, but it's a 1 for 3. The bot lane from TA Vikings, and Turk's healing keeps them going and turns around the fight.
It's absolutely absurd. That's the second time Evil Lobsters got such a high impact Curse of the Sad Mummy drop on top of members of the Vikings. The first time around, they were able to actually pick up some high value kills, but this time, Turk, down to his last 50 health points, is just healing up Loki Dosi, and sure, he drops for a shutdown, but he's able to knock down one of those advancing Redhawk members and delay just enough for this Fed Viego to show up in time, and it's all thanks to Turk. MVP in this game in the backdoor. I mean, you want to talk about the Viego making plays. Mark Boots is doing some fancy Shurima shuffles, but Turk is quietly 0-0-7, making sure everybody's staying alive for his squad.
Absolutely. Here's Bad and Mark pairing up together once again to slay themselves a dragon, and that's going to be sole point for the TA Vikings. Baron going to be available in about a minute here. The second Rift Herald is ripe for the taking if they do want to try to make a move for it, but probably don't even need it to keep cracking through these turrets, to be honest. They've found only 2 so far, but are sure to have more on the menu before too long with this massive gold lead they've built for themselves. Militant checking it out, seeing that they aren't there, and just trying to get themselves mid-priority. There's the lockdown onto Beans, though. A great play from Turk and Loki Dosi. They know that Yumi's on the silence field, and so they strike.
Yeah, I mean, you highlighted in draft, Gordo, that's one way to stop an arcane shift from Militant, but it's also a great way to stop this Yumi from jumping onto allies. So a beautiful pick there as well. And to go back to, you were talking about neutral objectives here, up for the Vikings. I was keeping track so far, and I'll keep track. Hopefully this trend changes for the Redhawks, but across what we'll call 1.5 games now, any neutral objective, the only thing they've ever taken was 1 outer top turret to this point in the series. It's just abysmal.
Indeed it is, as now the lockdown coming through in the bottom side. Flying Oyster and Pee-wee brawling back and forth here. Evil Lobster is coming down to try to make this into an unfair fight, and doing a pretty good job at it, although Flying Oyster just pretty quick on his feet, doing a good job to evade everything. He is going to be in a 1 versus 4 now, so surely going to end up going down eventually, but he's buying so much time. He wants to kill Militant. What? He will kill Militant. 1 versus 4, Flying Oyster takes out the opposing AD carry, and meanwhile his team, they just snagged themselves a free Baron. Thank you very much.
Oh my god, and by the way, the only reason that happened, Turk, another wish came across. Just enough health for him to kill off Militant 1v4. I mean, there's not much to say here. I don't have much hard-hitting analysis. What can you do against this comp as it's composed? The Soraka is going to heal stupid amounts of damage for any pick play you go on to. The rest of the team is going to move as 4 in all facets. And if you can't kill Flying Oyster without trading him 1v4, there's no point in going against that tree.
And the Chemtech Putrefier done for Turk as well. So across map, he bestows Grievous Wounds on the Flying Oyster, who then reduces enough healing from its beans to just kill Militant in the 1 versus 4. And the synergy working fantastically there in the favor of the Vikings.
And, you know, I do want to quickly, just for fun's sake, because this is a 10k gold lead at 22 minutes, get a good look at this little jungle exchange there from A Bit Bad, because after this season, you're not going to get to see that anymore. No more juggling those double camps. You've seen, you know, A Bit Bad do it a couple of times. A lot of junglers love to do it, obviously, with Blue Buff and Gromp. It's going to be a thing of a past, as sad as it is to say, Gordo.
It is. You know, I on the one hand, it means I get to start playing Fiddlesticks. Because if there's anything that I'm unwilling to do, it's learn the stupid pixel-perfect places to stand as Fiddlesticks where you can drain multiple camps. I've tried it before. I've spent 15 minutes on it, and I've said it's not worth any more time than this. I'm just not playing this champion. So that's going to be nice. But I will miss doubling my camps a little bit for sure.
Yep, and speaking of doubling, it looks like, oh, my fight might break out, but they're trying to double up these inner turrets. There's one dropped by Mark Boots. The defense is not going to be good enough from Miami University either. One Nature's Grasp, Flying Oyster creates enough distance, and they're just knocking on the base doors for the Miami University side.
Yeah, no, some long cats are enough to just push back the rest of the Miami roster, and now the two-pronged siege coming through. There's a TP from behind, but, you know, this is Flying Oyster plus 2 teammates. You couldn't take down just the one. There's going to be an excellent ultimate thrown down from Mark Boots, but Pee-wee comes in and knocks him even further in. Bitbad going to be able to go on the rampage, though. It's already 2 kills for 0, and they're focusing down onto Pee-wee. It was a great engage, but it just doesn't have the gold and the damage to back it up. And so TA Vikings are going to claim the fight 3 for 0. They're going to bust open the base, and maybe, just maybe this time, they're going to look for the win at 23 minutes. They're looking to focus down on I Stole Christmas. It's Beans. Does not offer much of the way of wave clear, and neither does this Jax. One Texas turret is going to fall. Can they find a way in to close out the rest? There's quite a few minions and quite a big Baron buff here. They might just be able to do it. There's the angle that they were waiting for. And oh my goodness, I Stole Christmas just gets blown right up. No chance for them to fight back against the Vikings. TA, take us to match point.
My God, Gordo, we should never ask for 5 games again. We should never, ever do it. Yeah, something has awoken. Oh, the Vikings. You thought game 1 was decisive. Well, they just won up it. At this point, what are we gonna say? Is it gonna be an 18-minute game for game 3? Like, are they not gonna even let a forfeit come across? It's dire straits if you're the Miami University Redhawks, who seem to have lost all their momentum from that first series. But once again, what is there to highlight? Well, this time maybe it's a bit of a draft diff in execution. I mean, sure, game 1 they executed the Blitzcrank pretty well. Xinzao ended up working out for a bit bad, but this time, Gordo, we saw the writing on the wall, and it worked to literal perfection. I'm going to harp on it again. Turk Soraka worked flawlessly with his Varus, and playing as 4 or 3 for most of that early game meant that it is just impossible for you to go play against them. So the answer is supposed to be, all right, go get your Jax ahead. But your Jax is on an island versus a tree that is unkillable. You can't pull him out of his roots, juggling those waves so well. And by the time you could fight him 4v1, he's 2 items deep on a tank with a Soraka healing him for another 600 from Wish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I gotta highlight my man Turk here. He did a fantastic job in this game, and I think even more so than the Soraka gameplay, which we all know maybe isn't the most exciting thing in the world. Just the champion pool depth really showing itself here. You know, they go for an incredibly safe bot lane in this Ezreal Yuumi, and TA seizes on that opportunity. Turk can play this Soraka. He can play, you know, the Blitzcrank like he did in game number 1 when they end up losing the Lucianami. He can play the Soraka when he's up against a very easy lane opponent and knows that he's going to be able to scale for free. And that just means that they very successfully end up punishing Miami for the 2nd game in a row here. And it's a very tough draft for them, especially in the support position coming into this game number 3. You know, they blew both of their round 2 bans trying to pinch that support pool, and the Soraka ended up being just perfect.
And the craziest part when you talk about Turk's champ pool, Gordo, is these aren't even like the mainstays I personally have gotten used to watching him from his TA Black days. His karma is absolutely vicious. I've seen it so many times. He breaks out the Nautilus a lot as well. We featured that his Renata Classic was really good when he was in meta on top of all of that. So Turk has a stupidly diverse champ pool. And we already highlighted that Mark Boots does. He probably showed off 2 of his most played champions, at least of the last couple months, with the Silas in game 1 he played well, and then in game 2 a more quieter Azir because we were so focused on bottom lane, but it's still a very good Azir. So TA Vikings, man, do they look good in this semifinals series. And if they 3-0 this thing, as good as we've talked about Purdue University has looked on the other side, and maybe Cupid Esports, I won't be picking against them.
Yeah, for sure here. It would have to be some crazy drafting for me to end up picking Miami in game number 3. But we'll see. We're going to throw it to a break here while we get into that draft and we find out for sure. We will see you on the other side where TA Vikings are looking to close this one out in a clean sweep, and Miami want to start their way onto a reverse.
They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think they win the team fight. Oh my god.
Get it, get it, get it, get it!
Like, you know where like the cleavage is, where like the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Redhawks going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's going to be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's going to be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's D. I've taken. Nice. Okay. Okay then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta honestly. You have one more? You can't die with it. It's gonna get dog.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god!
Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Fox Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Fox Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force guy. And here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get two of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's two dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think we win the team fight.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it, get it, get it, get it!
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast for the Risen Divine League, where Team Ambition Vikings are 2-0 up over the Miami University Redhawks, looking to take this series in a clean sweep. It looks like Miami are moving back to the red side.
Yeah, they'll move back to red. I don't know if how much answers that will bring. I mean, in case you're just joining us for some reason, you're just strapping in. Well, here, I'll paint you a picture. It's all about the Vikings. It's all about Valhalla. How many Nordic jokes should I make in this little spiel? Here's the point. Division Vikings look like the #1 seed of the Divine League. That's the big takeaway. They absolutely have smashed games 1 and 2. The stat that perfectly I highlighted, I said I was going to track it, Gordo, and I mentioned it in game 2, but I'll mention it one more time. Across all neutral objectives you can take in League of Legends in 2 games, the Team Vision Vikings have given up 1 outer turret post gold plates. 1. I mean, what else do I have to say?
It's tough, yeah. I mean, Miami have fallen pretty far behind in both games. Big early leads to the TA Vikings in both games through mid-jungle in game 1, through the bot lane in game 2. We'll see if they can do it through top in game 3 to complete the trifecta. But yeah, so definitely going to have to be finding a new way to attack this game and finding a way to make themselves competitive in the early game. My best idea here, if I'm, the Redhawks coach coming into game 3, is let's try to get something more proactive in the jungle. We've been playing tank junglers for the first 2 games here and have just been getting blown out of the water before 15 minutes. So maybe go for something like that Xin Zhao and try to get yourself on the board early.
I like that. I like that logic a lot. We'll see how it plays out as we do get into the game 1 draft, or game 3 draft, sorry. Mine is jumpable. Bans are similar. I find it intriguing the Vikings ban Aatrox on blue side. So that obviously tells that they're not thinking they're going to go with that for their first pick. And that would be a pick to perfectly align Gordo playing through top side for a sweep, I would say, but they won't. They ban it away. The Redhawks on red side, they'll ban away the Yuumi. And the Lucian, I was curious why they didn't take away the Varus, who I thought was a way more threatening AD carry across the series. And it's just immediately locked in for Loki Dosi. So look for another dominant performance from this Varus, unless the Redhawks pick an aggressive enough bottom lane to shut him down.
Yeah, my guess would be, so in game 1 they ran this kind of ban strategy, except instead of the Lucian, they banned the Wait. Oh, well that was, yeah, they banned the Aatrox was the one that they were missing that now ended up banned by the Vikings. And they first picked the Lucian on the Vikings side, and that kind of obligates Miami to steal the Nami. I don't think they want to play against Lucian Nami as a duo. And they don't want to play Nami this time around. They go for the Ezreal Karma, so again, a very safe bot lane. The safest you can get without having access to the Yuumi. Very poke-focused up against this Varus. And TA Vikings, they have their run of the rest of the positions now. They're going to take the Hecarim, looking to show a little bit of depth in this jungle pool. Viego's available, but they say, nah, I don't want it this time.
Yeah, but it's still another more proactive jungler early here for bad. So, I mean, Viego can farm up a lot and was able to in game number 2. But was still decently proactive. The Xin Zhao, I mean, was as proactive as you can get with that Gore Drinker and a 5-0 score line by the time 10 minutes rolled around. And now the Hecarim certainly answers that as well, as it looks like, a switch off of a Lulu to a Rel for Turk. So, man, flashing that champ pool once again, Gordo. 2 very different ideologies. Varus Lulu works in its own right with, buffering up that the Varus for those long-distance snipes, but now Rel brings a whole lot of different cards to the table, being able to lock up targets just as well as Varus can with those Chains of Corruption.
Yeah, this feels a little bit less like the kind of Exodia draft that they ended up with in game number 2. The Rel into only Ezreal Karma, it begs some questions from me, but you do get the synergy of having two horse-themed champions, so you have that at least, if nothing else. And now Sylas, the lock-in for Miami, they really just want Pee-wee on this Sylas. I gotta say, last week his games were one fantastic carry game of Sylas last week, and 2 games of Ryze. This week, all 3 games Ryze has been banned, and all 3 games he's picked Sylas. So he's or actually, no, sorry, it was Mark Boots on the Sylas in game 1. He picked the Akali.
Right.
So 2 games of Sylas here. Didn't have the best game in game number 2 on this Sylas, but now with the Azir banned away, thinks that his fortunes might be a little bit better. And there's the Vi from Miami.
Does kind of answer what you were asking for, Gordo. I mean, I have some questions about how it may act in the bigger scheme fights, but it's definitely a more proactive jungler early. Definitely has the kit once ultimates come around to be very, very threatening, and I do like it for the sense that Sylas will be able to steal away that unstoppable onslaught. So if you send Vi through with her ultimate and have Sylas come over top with a stolen Hecarim ultimate, that's a lot of chaos to cause onto a backline. I certainly like that as well. But we'll keep going through pick series TAVs on the clock with back-to-back selections, and man, they're just going to keep flexing a crazier champ pool, right? There is only one repeated champion from game 2 here in the Varus, and all 4 of the other champions haven't been picked by the Vikings this entire series. The LeBlanc from Mark Boots and the Renekton in the top lane will be answered by the Camille for Ice Christmas. So certainly a timeless classic bout in the top lane over the last couple of years of League of Legends.
Yeah, and a champion that I Stole Christmas is very comfortable on. He played this a little bit last week. It's his most played in solo queue. And it's a matchup that's going to be fine with the Renekton. He gets the opportunity to counterpick top here in game number 3, and I think this is a good call to say that they want to try to play through the top lane in this scenario if they can, given that they've had a lot of troubles playing through bot lane. They've drafted for it to be as safe as possible once again, this time going for the Ezreal Karma instead of the Ezreal Yuumi. Ezreal Yuumi was not as safe as advertised. Maybe Ezreal Karma can get you the rest of the way there. And then sticking to this Sylas for Pee-wee, something that he's very comfortable on, and getting yourself a winning matchup for I Stole Christmas. He was your big carry in the matchup last week, and he's who they're going to look through here in this game number 3.
Yeah, they'll look to him once again as we do get through. We get started with the client-side draft. The big question mark, and I'm curious, Gordon, to get your input on this, is we have a comp now drafted. Camille, Vi, Sylas stealing away, maybe Hecarim ultimate. That is a lot of going forward, jumping, just everybody, you're dogpiling, right? Karma does really well supporting that, with those mantra-empowered speed-ups and shields, along with some key roots. Where does this first pick Ezreal fit in? Because, yeah, sure, he has True Shot Barrage to do some damage from distance but I maybe personally would have liked a Caitlyn where you've already seen picked up by Militant over top with this comp instead. Jhin, I think, works really, really well with this comp to set up some of these pick plays with those roots and that, the ultimate. I'm blanking on the name of the ultimate. So many ultimates in this game. His ultimate from distance would be more damage than a True Shot Barrage, I think. So I don't know how the Ezreal fits into the style of the rest of this comp.
Yeah, I think it doesn't really. I mean, it's going to be able to skirmish. It's going to be able to rain down some damage from afar. It'll be kind of filling that marksman role of just doing ranged DPS, which, you could do with any champion realistically. But I think a lot of where it falls into this draft is just they feel the need to show respect to Loki, Dosi, and Turk and the laning ability that they've shown us throughout this series, particularly now on this Varus. They were able to really just kind of blow them out of the water in game number 2. And now in game number 3, they say, well, the Ezreal didn't work in game 2, but our reasoning for picking the Ezreal in the first place, that's really been set in stone.
Well, it looks like, Gordo, you're not allowed to badmouth, or you're not allowed to talk about Ezreal gameplay anymore. You get taken away.
Yeah.
From the desk.
I think that. I don't know if that's my internet going on here or what. I was lagging out of the parsec for a second as well, but it seems like I'm still here. I can see you. I can't see me.
Yeah.
Gaddy's got me back in here. Maybe. We'll get there, but nonetheless.
I always like making little fun jokes when that happens, but nonetheless, I do think I'm gonna predict where you're going with this next point to predictions. So I'll throw one out right off the bat, Gordo. There's absolutely no reason either should be picking against the Vikings. I don't care if they somehow drafted 5 supports on the other side, but their comp still looks pretty darn good for game 3. So I'll go with Team Ambition.
Yeah, they kind of they're not the best. They're not my favorite draft, right? I don't love blind pick Renekton. I don't love Rel into Ezreal Karma. They've definitely they've done their best to sway me away just a tiny bit here, but I'm still gonna end up predicting the TA Vikings. I mean, they've had a fantastic first 2 games of this series. I do like what Miami's gone for here. I think they've given themselves their best shot. I think based on what we've seen in these first 2 games, this draft all around makes a very solid amount of sense. I just don't know that it's gonna be enough given what we've had to see throughout this series. But I'd be happy for them to prove me wrong and take us to Game 4 or Game 5. So we're going to certainly be not counting them out of this one quite yet, as they're taking a different approach for Game 3.
I think we will see some similar styles to the other 2 games, though. I think Hecarim and LeBlanc, post Ultimates coming online, can really play well together, roaming. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see Mark Boots and Bad roaming bot side a lot. And you obviously expect Loki Dosi and Turk. You know, they've showed lane dominance. They've shown lane dominance against safe bottom lane picks, and now they're equipped with a ton more CC than Varus and Soraka were maybe last time. So they'll have some leads as well. But I'm very interested to see how Mark Boots and this Hecarim play together, because I think they could do some real damage roaming across the river together.
Absolutely. So we will be finding that one out pretty shortly. We're going to throw it to a quick break while we get loaded onto the Rift for our 3rd game of the night, and what could be our final game of the night if the TA Vikings do match our predictions. So we will see you on the other side as we find out if Miami are going to start up the reverse sweep or if we're going to be calling it early.
Like, you know where like the cleavage is, where like the boobs touch? Or supposed to touch?
No, I've never touched a woman.
Cat Everfrost used not gonna quite hit. There goes a 5-man shield there. Redhawks going to get caught up in the baby cage. That's gonna be a 3-man shockwave in the backline with a big face breaker. That's gonna be a showstopper right there. That's
Can't get slowed when he was in Pike's team. I have vision. Nice. Okay. Okay, then. I'm gonna try to get you the penta, honestly. You never know. You can't die with this. It's gonna get dogged.
Can go. I mean, I have flash in a second.
Oh my god!
Have any teleports on the side of CCW. They might try to go for a pick here. Box Prime has to be careful. Doesn't know they're all there. This could be the pick they want, but you have to be careful as well, though. They're gonna burst him down. Box Prime dies before anyone else can go in. They don't get the second call of the force dive, and here we go. Here comes the Vlad. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad on the back line. There's a double knockout. Keep an eye on the Vlad. Vlad gets one of them. Vlad's able to get 2 of them unbound. He's gonna survive on the back end of it, but they're gonna be able to kill the Anivia. And there's 2 dead on the side of CCW. Can they get more? There's the Vlad. Can they get the knockup on Asthmatic Boy? Can he get the blast kill? No, he can't. He's gonna fall incredibly low. They're gonna keep going in. Team Shooter is gonna be able to get the root. They're gonna try to find more. They're gonna find everyone. But there's the kill. Unbound. He's doing it all. Unbound is doing it all. Give it out. Unbound. Unbound's killing them all. Unbound is winning this game.
Okay. You guys good?
They're definitely gonna get it, but I think we win the team fight.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Get it!
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Divine League, where we've got TA Vikings up 2-0 over the Miami University Redhawks. Miami going to have to show up big here in this game number 3 to turn the tides of this best of 5. Otherwise, TA Vikings are going to stamp their ticket to the grand finals in a clean 3-0.
Yeah, it's looked dire for the first 2 games, but this time maybe corrected for a bit more early game presence. We talked about it before we got into draft, Gordo, that it really felt like they were always on the back foot, especially in the jungle department for Evil Lobster. And it wasn't just the fact that the plays weren't going their way and they weren't reacting well to plays, but even like from a draft standpoint, the champions they just picked, the matchups weren't good enough for some early pressure. So if they want a chance against the Vikings, who look pretty flawless in all facets of play right now, they're going to have to come at them right off the bat in early game. And Vi has the tools to get that done in the right circumstances.
It sure does. It's looking like it's going to be a bottom side start for both junglers here, waiting on these buffs to arrive. Bad. Maybe going to look to influence the top lane as well. Evil Lobster certainly wants to, as they've put in a lot of eggs in the I Stole Christmas basket.
Yeah, Ignite Teleport too. So that's the call your shot, Camille Summoner combination there against the Croc of Flying Oyster up here. Certainly going to be intriguing to watch how this matchup plays out as we get a little bit of an intro. It's no Ignite for Flying Oyster. I've seen a lot of Renekton's take the Ignite because if you are Renekton in this matchup, you kind of need some sort of lead. Camille can sort of survive, I feel like, by farming it out. Level 1.
Militant already blowing the flash there as the crash down from Turk was pretty nicely placed and would have gotten the knockup on the poor Militant. So he is going to be down that summoner spell now for the next 5.
Yeah, and top side, level 2 already for Christmas.
Yeah, Flying Oyster not able to get up to level 2 in time. Does finally take over to it. It looks like he barely stays alive. But now they're going in on a Militant without any flash. Loki, Dosi, and Turk pick up the kill in the 2 versus 2 now. And now Turk trying to dodge away from Beans. Beans expending the flash just to try to make this into a 1-for-1 trade. He will get it, but he's gonna drop. Loki, Dosi goes up 2-0. While Miami, they have to settle for the kill on their support.
Gosh, it's shades of game 2 all over again, Gordo. This is another 2-0 Varus. Flying Oyster just able to get out of the grass from that hook shot from I Stole Christmas. What is going on in the jungle?
Yeah, Evil Lobster going for a bit of an early invade here. Does spot Bad, trying to do 2 camps at once on the Hecarim and going to interrupt him as a result. Mark Boots, though, finding a nice angle in mid onto Pee-wee. Can't quite go down to join his jungler yet, though. Instead, they're going to send Turk for that job.
Turk is the man to call it any sort of distressing situation. He roams all the way up to make sure that Bad gets... I believe he got both of those camps over. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, he should. Here's the next invade, though.
Oh, flash from Evil Lobster, but the channel times out on his Q. A little bit of a misplay there, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter. I Stole Christmas finishes off that kill, claims the double buffs, and builds an even bigger advantage in the top lane. It's Turk looking for something in mid, but can't find it.
Listen, Gordo, it wasn't pretty, but it got the job done. There's some early aggression, finally, from the Redhawks. I Stole Christmas doing a really good job on that Pat and Camille you talked about was such a good pick. And it really starts with, oh boy.
Oh, Loki Dosi and Militant in the one-on-one, but Loki Dosi, he's got a big lead from that earlier engagement with the Noon Quiver already completed, just runs down Militant and takes him out.
I mean, what are you even thinking there, though? You know that he has the Noon Quiver. You just don't win that trade, especially when you didn't have PTA up and you don't have Conqueror for an extended trade. There's just no reason to go for that. And it's another death for Militant.
Yeah, as Flying Oyster and I Stole Christmas. Wow, this is a big lead for I Stole Christmas, and he's really punishing Flying Oyster for it. Ugh. One more hit off the Precision Protocol will take that Renekton down quite low, and he's going to have to take a recall here.
You'd have to take a recall and already TP back up earlier. I was going to highlight the fact that the only reason that invade would go so well for Evil Lobster and I Stole Christmas is because I Stole Christmas was dominating early in that lane. The Flying Oyster, if he had roamed over, he's sacrificing at least a wave, if not more, of minions. So he couldn't move over, and Mark Boots was being matched by Pee-wee on any sort of roam. So it really set them up in the cards for that great first kill. they would be on par for a pretty nice gold lead if it weren't for this Varus down south.
Yeah, no, the bottom lane really favoring TA Vikings here without any jungle attention, so we'll have to see if that sparks a change of game plan from Evil Lobster to try to bail them out of this situation, or if they just put even more and more emphasis on I Stole Christmas, who is doing pretty well up here himself, but Mark Boots on the roam, lands the chains, lands the mark, and is going to be able to pick up a kill for Flying Oyster.
The Croc gets the help he needs. There we go. Mark Boots finally was able to get out of mid lane. He was continuously being shoved in by Pee-wee. Wasn't allowing him to go for any roam. The second he gets a chance, boy, does he make Miami University pay.
Yeah. Excellent play on the LeBlanc there. I'm really surprised he was able to find the angle in there to find the chains, and he just gets just enough burst damage onto that no-flash Camille to take him down and get that top lane back into his team's favor. And we'll see Turk looking for the flip back in onto Militant, but he'll be keeping his distance for sure.
Ignite Teleport Camille is always a double-edged sword, right? Because you have the aggression ability to cover yourself if you go down early and continue to press in waves with the Teleport, and the Ignite gives you the early game matchup. But if you blow hook shot, you are a sitting duck on the water for any sort of gank action. Mark Boots does a beautiful job highlighting that, and now, yeah, the bottom lane was a pretty big advantage for the Vikings, but the gold lead wasn't that massive because I Stole Christmas was doing well. Evil Lobster had an assist off the invade play and was keeping up in CS. It's starting to look more like shades of game 1 and 2 as the gold lead is ever advancing in multiple lanes by this point.
Sure here as Mark Boots finds another great angle onto Pee-wee, gets both sigils out in time, gets the detonate, and chunks Pee-wee down. Very low health, very low mana. It is a roam coming down from I Stole Christmas, but hard to lock down Mark Boots here, and not going to get any backup from his laner for sure.
Beautifully placed ward there just off the brush was able to show that I Stole Christmas coming down. Obviously the pings are coming across, so we have an idea, but got a full view of anything I Stole Christmas wanted to do, and a bit bad. Just farming up, starting to get a pretty sizable CS lead, and might look for a dive with Ultimate online.
Looking for this one here. Militant and its Beans already trying to create some distance, but they're getting funneled back towards their turret by this horse. He will decide, you know, that's mission accomplished. The wave is going to crash here. I'm going to steal away the blue buff now. Maybe at risk of getting collapsed on, but he does have the level advantage. There's the engage option from Turk. They're focusing on the Beans, and Beans is nowhere to go. But bad, losing out on the one-on-one, just going to get solo killed by Lobster while he's trying to buy time for his bottom lane. They are going to look to focus down on a Militant, but Loki Dosi going to be forced to flash away, and Turk very, very low, as here comes Pee-wee trying to close up the gap. On great steal on the Chains of Corruption. Flash forward, there's going to be the spread onto Turk, and there's going to be a double kill for Pee-wee in the bottom lane.
There we go, Redhawks. Great job using the bag timers. You know Mark Boots is going for a reset when I Stole Christmas came down, so Pee-wee had prio on the roam. And yeah, sure, Evil Lobster was down a little bit of CS to this Hecarim, but you've always got to favor that Vi with Conqueror against Hecarim in their own jungle. The roam over was perfect, and Milton, well, he's about to spoil it.
He is going to be able to finish off this kill on a Militant bad. Gets himself a little bit of gold back, but still, Miami keeping this one much more competitive than they have the rest of this series. Mark Boots now in a little bit of trouble, will be able to break the chain, but won't be able to focus any more damage on a Pee-wee.
Yeah, I know, you know, I can speak for all AD carry players when I say this one, Gordon. I don't know for sure, but when your team gets 3 kills like that is... Actually, I'll have to stop here for a second.
Focusing on the Pee-wee once again here. What can Mark Boots find in regards to damage? Now, Turk going to find Evil Lobster here as he and Bad are trying to take the dragon together. They're going to call over Loki Dosi. He already has his shield bow completed. He is going to be so strong here, and they're just going to be forced to back away.
I think that's 3 straight games where a member of the Vikings had their mythic done before 10 minutes. Game 1, it was 1,000% bad on that Xin Zhao. Had the Gore Drinker done. I would wager that Loki Dosi in Game 2 had it done that quickly as well. So really showing not only can they get such early leads, but it's not the same guy game in and game out.
Yeah, absolutely here. 2 games in a row now, though, it is going to have been Loki Dosi on this Varus. He's just been so dominant in the lane matchup up against Militant's Ezreal in particular. Supports have switched on out now for both games, but the result has been the same, and it's been the TA Vikings bot lane just dominating in this 2 versus 2.
And as they're pushing their lead further, what happens, Gordo? They go back to neutral objective control. That is the third game in a row that A Bit Bad has secured the first Drake. This time it'll be another Hex Tech. And you got to think that he started to prioritize that Rift Herald. You can see he's going for his top side clear. And as I say it, a couple of pings fly out right on top of good old Shelly. So you got to think that that buff is not going to be long for this world either.
Yeah, for sure. As Mark Boots now still trading with Pee-wee. We're going to see Gank breaking out in the top lane as now here comes Evil Lobster looking to lock down on two Flying Oyster. There's nowhere left for this Hecarim to go. He does get the double dash off the slice and dice, and now Bad is looking for an angle. Meanwhile, the fight breaking out in the mid lane. Mark Boot's going to be able to close out on that kill, but Bad, he just doesn't have the damage on the Hecarim. He is going to end up dropping to Evil Lobster. Ends up just being a kill for the side of the Redhawks, but now in the bottom lane, Loki Dosi finds an angle on the Militant once again and picks up another solo kill.
Oh my god, it's getting hard to watch, Gordo. It's just, it's 1v1s now. Milton's getting picked off, pushing too far for extra gold. As we go to a replay on this bot side exchange, Milton. They didn't do him dirty like that.
That's cruel, Caddy. Why do you got to do that, my man?
I didn't even know he true shot Barrage backwards. Listen, I know exactly what happened there. He was lining up the ultimate to shoot it across from his screen, but he accidentally was hovering over the map and probably selected on the map where to true shot Barrage, and it ends up going backwards as our production team does him dirty as well.
Absolutely. And you know what that also called attention to for me is I think Loki Dosi 1v2'd though. I think he killed Beans as well, because Beans was dead at the same time that Bad was dead.
Yeah, wait, he's 5-1-0 now. Wait, we missed that.
Yeah, he killed them both, one at a time. Apparently Beans without ultimate. So it's going to be a real problem in this bottom lane for Miami. I mean, I know I've been saying it over and over again, but Loki Dosi is 1v2ing you guys now.
What else is there to say, though?
You're going to really try to... They need to find some way to stop this bleeding. It's getting really out of control here. He's got the Rage Knife now. It's going to get harder and harder to challenge him here.
I will say the difference between this game versus last is that's a good dodge by the Croc. Here's the gank.
All right, moving on in. They are going to knock in I Stole Christmas, and I don't think the physical damage shield is going to be enough there. Bad is going to be able to close it out.
Yeah, remember, you drop the hook shot on this Camille, bad things are going to happen after that is, Pee-wee.
Oh, there's another angle from Mark Boots. Good
Hold
reset, but it's not enough. Pee-wee finds his way in, gets the Kingslayer, and takes out Mark Boots in the one-on-one. But meanwhile, first turret drops in the top lane as Bad throws down that Rift Herald and gets those turret plates for his Crocodile.
It's funny, right? This game doesn't feel like it's a 4K gold lead for the Vikings versus the last two. There's actually some fight coming from the Redhawks this time. Sure, bottom lane is about just as much of a wash as it was in game 2, but you have a 3-0 in Silas now that you have to respect on Pee-wee. This Vi from Evil Lobster, 2-0-1 as well, has a Divine Summoner, will be able to do some serious damage, and Camille farming up decently well, has some serious damage. You could see when A Bit Bad tried to trade both of them out on that initial topside play a couple minutes ago, was able to help kill them both off. So not only is there a couple of Fed members of Miami University Redhawks with some gold in their pocket, two of them are going to be very, very good at jumping on top of a lowly Varus, no matter how fed he is.
Yeah, Pee-wee, though, finding an angle onto Mark Boots once again here, manages to lock him down with the Everfrost, now getting good damage off of the chains. And Mark Boots finds himself very low on HP once again here, losing out to this Silas now, who's really hitting his groove with the mythic item completed.
Oh, Bad's just baiting here. He wants the fight. Drake going to be up in about 10 seconds. Will we see another neutral objective finally secured by Miami University?
Oh, breaking out in the top lane here. Flying Oyster just does not win this 1-versus-1 at all. But in the bottom lane, fight's breaking out. And this one's favoring the Vikings. Torque is going to finish off on the Evil Lobster. And now there's going to be the lockdown on a Pee-wee as Loki Dosi finishes off that kill. This is the second dragon that is the prize being fought over. And it's going to be a prize won by TA Vikings, Militant, and Beans together. They just cannot do anything about this objective. And they're going to want to be very careful facing off against this Varus, who's been bullying them all game long.
Yeah, and the worst part about that's the two most fed members of the Redhawks that we talked about that just got dispatched with relative ease. I will say on the top side, we could have an update in the old neutral objective score sheet here. If I Stole Christmas, can he finally take the second turn of the series?
Yeah, Militant likely going to get dove here. He's not even worth that much money anymore, to be honest. They're going to pick up, 220 gold off that one, but they will be able to get the turret as a result. And it's going to be objective bounties turned on. Evil Lobster gets spotted here, but he is probably a little bit outnumbered until Pee-wee can arrive. They're trying to focus down the Vi. He's going to flash away. Pee-wee steals away the Chains of Corruption, now looking to lock down onto Bad, and they will get that shutdown gold funneled into the Silas.
Teleport.
Here's a teleport from I Stole Christmas. They want the shutdown onto Loki Dosi. They want everything they can get out of this favorable bot lane play. And Turk and Loki Dosi, there's nothing they can really do about it. The Chains of Corruption going to land on a Turk. They're looking to focus down the support, and he's going to drop first. They get the snare here, but now here comes Mark. Going to trade back, gets the damage onto Evil Lobster, but now he's low on health himself. There's going to be Pee-wee looking for the dive, but nobody to tank up the turret, nobody willing to go under there and face the Chains of Corruption from Loki Dosi, except for maybe Pee-wee. He's still looking for an angle on a Mark Boots. They will be able to successfully back them away. Loki Dosi drops some dances on him, playing the emotes, and they're only going to really end up with Bad and Turk for that play. I thought for sure Loki Dosi was going to die.
Well, yeah, he was holding on to both of his summoners, so really well, some great patience again from the Vikings. AD carry there. He now has the Rage Blade locked in, 2 items deep at 16 minutes is gnarly. Good play from the Redhawks there. A couple of good pickoffs. A little too much aggression from Bad once again on that Hecarim. Got caught going forward as the Silas had the priority roam first. I will say, though, on the other side, the Croc was able to knock down an inner turret, so the Vikings, yeah, sure, maybe they're not as perfect in this game 3, but they're always good for making sure to even the odds in some sort of way for these cross map plays.
Sure are here as Loki Dosi stepping forward in the mid lane now, leaving his territory in the bottom lane to try to spread this advantage around, but that's going to be Mark Boots getting caught by I Stole Christmas. There's going to be the Hextech Ultimatum looking to focus down onto this LeBlanc, and there's nowhere he can go. I Stole Christmas gets the solo kill on the enemy mid.
And oh boy, they might jump the Varus.
There's going to be that Assault and Battery locking down onto Varus, but he manages to stay alive, and now with a big piercing arrow, nearly takes out Beans. Evil Lobster can't get the damage either. There's going to be the damage reduction from that shield bow, keeps him alive. Meanwhile, a solo kill from Pee-wee on the Flying Oyster in the top lane, keeps Miami close to even, but this team fight in mid is TA Vikings written all over it as they're looking to find an angle onto Militant now. There's going to be another smite, and there's going to be an attempted execution. Bad, barely staying alive with the triumph, will manage to escape.
That was all Turk, flawlessly played, because Loki Doki was pretty dead to rights until he was able to land that two-man stun into that Magnet ultimate. I think Magnet Storm might be the ultimate name. It's been a while since I've seen some real gameplay. Oh,
you got it. You got it.
Let's go. Magnet Storm. Yeah, great. But that Magnet Storm was able to pull Vi off just a little bit away from Loki Dosi and made enough range for him to get that really good piercing arrow across. So Turk, we've talked about it all series long, flashing his versatility, does it again, protecting his AD carry. But the silver lining for, Miami University here is you highlighted a bit, Gordo, 2 solo kills in either one of the bot and top side lanes, and with objective bounties, they've knocked down some more neutral objectives. Woo! 3 turrets. They took 2, so 2 outer turrets as well, and they're putting up a fight in this game. It's good to see they're not going to just bow out going down 2-0.
They are. It is still a big lead for the Vikings. They've done a great job of maximizing their income across the map here. They've got CS leads across the board. They've gotten all those turret plates from earlier. They're going to get the second Rift Herald here, and they've got both dragons. So they really are still well in control of this game. But yeah, Miami has found angles into these fights and have done a good job of pushing the advantages they've been able to get. The side laning from I Stole Christmas still is very threatening, and TA Vikings are going to need to either find fights or find a way to answer it. And there's a fight right there. Beans dropping very low, taken down by Loki Dosi's Flying Oysters teleporting in. Militant drops again as well. 12 deaths for the Miami bot lane. That is going to open up quite an angle in the mid lane for them to take some more turrets.
It was so rough too because I Stole Christmas had a really good flank angle going from red side, from that bot side blue jungle. And then Evil Lobster could have came across again, but you can't flank if everybody you're trying to get to on your team just dies. So really well played fight by the Vikings. I've said it all series long. And that Rift Herald you talked about they're going to knock down the mid turret. I don't even know if they're going to need Shelly for the inhibitor. They will use her for it. And it's just the base broken open again at 20 minutes this time. It's it's got to be a record at some point, and they'll be able to turn their attention to both Baron, which just spawned, and setting themselves up for Soul Point.
Yeah, and it looks like they're moving for Soul Point right here, right now, as they know they've got full vision control over the enemy bot side jungle, maybe even looking to set up for a little bit of an angle for Lokidosi and Turk to find and engage onto the rest of the team. Mark Boots still hunting around there, looking for somebody unawares as well. They're going to start up this Ocean Drake, and it looks like it's going to be a challenge from Miami, but too little too late. It's going down here. That's going to be Soul Point, and there's the engaged. Turk finds the Magnet Storm on everybody. There's the Rampage through with the Onslaught of Shadows. 2 kills right away. Actually, Beans still managing to stay alive for a little bit longer, but he will drop at the end of it. Flying Oyster now in a 1 versus 2. He's going to end up falling. It's 2 for 1 all in all, but a bit bad. Has found an angle onto Pee-wee here, looking to challenge the enemy mid laner in the one-on-one, and he's so farmed on this Hecarim, he can actually win out on it. Kingslayer keeps him alive for a little bit longer. Nice dodge onto the Everfrost. There's going to be the Mastery. Healing back and forth is pretty substantial, but Bad does win the one-on-one on the end of the day, and now I Stole Christmas and Militant. They're on the wrong side of the map, and Militant's on the wrong side of his health bar as he's going to end up falling down to Mark Boots, and here comes the final kill. I Stole Christmas will get picked up by Lokidosi. Not going to be an ace as Beans has already respawned along with Evil Lobster, but that's a big fight win. 5 for 2 for the TA Vikings.
I would wager that's the first 5v5 I think we've seen all series long, and the Vikings, they absolutely crush it with the horsey combo. The Rel going forward from Turk combined with unstoppable onslaught from a bit bad. It just creates so much space and grabs so much attention. A 3-man fear across the front line of Miami University. Rel is able to stun up and pull a bunch of the members together as well. So by the time that any of them look to turn and jump on Varus, that Vi's already blown up. The Camille is pushed off to the side. Militant is getting jumped on by the Croc. It disrupts anything that any sort of team comp wants to do, and especially helps that they were up 10k gold while doing it.
Absolutely does here, as there's going to be another fight right now. The damage from Flying Oyster is just massive with that Prowler's Claw and Blade of the Ruin King combo. He nearly assassinates Pee-wee, who is now going to have to look to try to get his health back, and meanwhile the Baron is getting started up on the top side. Now here comes Flying Oyster. He props the Prowler's Claw, and he gets the solo kill. A little bit of revenge for the play in the top lane earlier on, as now it's going to be 4v4 over this potential Baron. Make that 3 versus 4. Whoa. Here comes an Evil Lobster, and he gets the smite, stealing away the Purple Worm for the side of Miami, but he's going to lose his life in trade, and that's going to be 3 members to defend against the 5-man push of the TA Vikings. They will have the Baron buff for a little bit of support there, but the side laning now is turning on for TA. Flying Oyster will be able to pick up this bot inner at the very least.
Yeah, it seems like the leads were just stalled for these solo lanes, because rarely do you see Mark Boots behind. Flying Oyster has come back as well, but I Stole Christmas isn't done.
Starting it off here, and oh my goodness, the burst damage from that Precision Protocol just cannot be ignored. But in the top side, that can't be ignored either. That's going to be the inhibitor turret falling. That's going to be bad coming in for the backside flank. Trying to focus down onto the inhibitor, will get pushed back out with the rest of his team. They are going to wait for a future push. The Baron buff plus all the respawns, a little bit too dangerous here.
Yeah, just a little too dangerous. But hey, a Baron steal is still a Baron steal, right? And if we go back to that, Evil Lobster, 79 HP was the difference between the big worm, like you said, going the way of a bit bad, and it was secured by Evil Lobster. I was about to comment on the fact that that Baron take was a little dicey, right? You had Mark Boots, who was just casually shoving top wave. You had Turk, who was trying to juggle, keeping 4 people out of the pit, all while a bit bad. He has to tank all of the Baron damage up. Hey, we'll get a replay look at it. You'll see here, look, Mark Boots high up on your screen. Turk doesn't join the pit until about 2k, and as we get down to it, 79 was the number, and Evil Lobster secures it. Luckily, though, the Vikings are able to turn the fight. Turk does some great job CCing up the Vi, and Hecarim's able to get out of there, but it's still another neutral objective secured by the Redhawks, and it does delay a lot more of that push. Sure, they're able to knock down the top side inhibitor turret and the last inner turret towards bot side, Gordo, but if they had Baron Asher in their cards, I think they probably could have ended the game right there.
Very possible, so a crucial steal for Evil Lobster, no doubt. Now, not going to be enough to pull them all the way back into the game yet, though. They're going to need a series of comeback plays, of steals, of angles, and there's one potentially from Pee-wee on a Mark Boots. Get a double dash away, we'll be able to blink back. juke him out a little bit as Flying Oyster finds an angle onto I Stole Christmas. He is going to get knocked back into the wall by a bit bad. There's going to be the chain CC coming through from the Magnet Storm as they're going to pick up 2 kills for a bit bad, and he's looking for more. Dives in with the Onslaught of Shadows. Beans has nowhere left to go. Triple kill picked up for bad as Militant has to run back to the fountain. Teleport has been completed by Pee-wee. He has rejoined with the fight. He is going to be able to pick up that kill on a Flying Oyster, but their base is in shambles as a result. Loki Dosi stepping up, firing away onto Pee-wee. You might have forgotten how fed he is, as he's been a little out of the action for a while, but he's happy to show you as Loki Dosi goes legendary, finishing off another kill onto Militant, and now ready to move on to Pee-wee. The last stand up against TA Vikings, trying to keep Miami Redhawks in the game, but nowhere to go. Ace picked up as Loki Dosi snipes one more down with the piercing arrow. Now going to be Evil Lobster, looking to try to sustain this as long as he can. The respawns are coming through. I Stole Christmas and its Beans are here to fight back through. They pick up 1 kill onto bad. Loki Dosi just firing the arrows the whole way through, though. Nobody can access Loki Dosi, and nobody can keep their hopes alive in the series. Loki Dosi happy with his resets, happy with his passive, going to use that additional attack speed, ram through the Nexus, and close out this series. TA Vikings win it 3-0.
Man, I'm curious on the number on his attack speed and those last fights. I would wager maybe 2 something. He was firing out autos like it was nobody's business. Loki Dosi, you know things are going well for your old ADC when he can frontline with no worry in the world. The Vikings, well, Gordo, they gave us our correct prediction, but boy, did they do it in a style we did not expect tonight.
Yeah, no, we predicted 3-2. You know, this was TA Vikings' probably cleanest series of the Risen Divine League so far. Really turning it on for playoffs versus the regular season, as they dropped games to teams that didn't even make the playoffs in the regular season. But they dropped 0 games to the Miami University Redhawks here. A dominant performance, and one that is certainly going to have them be a team to watch in the finals. You know, I mean, there's only 2 teams to watch in the finals, but they're certainly looking very good off the back of this 3-0 semis.
And it's a really resilient effort. The fact that a guy like Mark Boots, how often have you really seen him behind out of a lane for Team Ambition? Really rare. And he was behind. I mean, he was 1 and 2 and 4 down a bit of CS. I mean, he was even in CS. But on the other side, you know, that Silas from Pee-wee was like 4 and 1, 6 and 2 at points. So he couldn't battle the Silas. And it didn't matter because the other members of the squad, Loki Dosi and Turk, were doing so much work, and a bit bad finally came online. And the production gave us his attack speed at the end of that game was 3.54 on the Varus. That's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's lethal tempo breaking your attack speed cap right there. Little nuts, and a fantastic game from him all around. And you know, this is a tough series to give series MVP for. You know, we had, like you said, there were some really good performances from multiple members on the team. I think I've got to lean towards giving it to Loki Dosi, though. You know, I think game by game it would have been a different player every game, but across the entire series, Loki Dosi was just such a force in that bottom lane, and was really showing up there for TA.
It certainly has to be somebody in the bottom lane. And speaking of the bottom lane, we do have one replay-worthy fight to show. So let's cue that thing up and I can take it through. The only 5v5 we had all series long was at the Drake pit, or actually this was a little bit earlier towards the Drake pit. You can see a lot of good plays by a bit bad. We talked about both Pee-wee and Evil Lobster being a really big threat in the early game. Well, with those right rotations and moves with Turk as well, there's just nothing you can do against them. They move so well together. There's so much CC with the Rel, the Hecarim, and that Varus, and that was really where they shut down any early threat we saw from the Redhawks. And the only real replay we honestly can show you across this whole series, because it was such a wipe. But Gordon, to go back to your original point there about series MVP, I have to think it's funny. I'm an 80 carry player. I really want to give it to Turk, but Loki Dosi, I want to say, was probably like 27, 2, and 14 across 2 games.
Yeah, I was really thinking Turk as well, and Turk performed excellently as well. Don't get me wrong; he had a great couple of games there. I think the Blitzcrank Lucian is kind of a wash. That game was all about bad all day long. So unless you're gonna give the series MVP to bad, you're probably discounting game 1 entirely. And in game 2, Turk Soraka was great, but the Varus was great as well. And then I think game 3 is really what breaks it open. Is Turk was running around the map, he was making stuff happen on the rail. Don't get me wrong, but this Varus just kept building the lead bigger and bigger and bigger, as he was just kind of left on his own. And Turk made some plays, but I think the game really blew open through Varus just continuing to dominate, either in the isolated 1 versus 1 or even sometimes in the 1 versus 2.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I definitely think Loki Dosi is the pick. And man, I don't know if I would assume we don't have
got
any
another
sort of...
replay. I'm being told that was not the replay that we wanted to have.
I was gonna say, I felt like I kind of got replay baited. I was expecting a different dragon fight.
Like we got the one team fight, and it's a 2 for 0 in like a 3 versus 3 scenario. Here's the team fight replay.
All right, so yeah, this is the only 5v5 the whole series long, and it's really just, it's all about the horsey power of this one. I mean, you can see the Mark Boots has a really good flank. They know where all 5 members are. Drake gets secured, and watch Turk and a bit bad here. Bam! 3-man stun, unstoppable onslaught, shadows. Hits another 2 with the fear. You immediately get beans. You immediately cut down that 5. It's the only threat to Loki Dosi. And from there, it's just easy pickings. Militant is a literal cannon minion by this point in the game. The only reason that the Renekton drops is because Camille's on top of him. And here's the real 1v1. I really thought Pee-wee might be able to take this, but the Conqueror proc, that swinging of that cleaver from this Hecarim so far ahead by this point. Flashes the champion mastery. Ooh, a little bit of dodge on the Everfrost, and Hecarim says, you can heal all you want, Silas, but I'm on a killing spree. And on the other side of the map, I Stole Christmas. Loki Dosi finds him out, and Militant is just there for fun. In case you thought you missed it, he's down there. Immediately gets blown up by Mark Boots, and it's only easy pickings from that point. Loki Dosi over the wall. This Camille gets shut down again by another beautiful Turk stun, and it ends up being, I believe, a 5 for 1 in the only team fight for the Vikings, and boy, was it a wash. Does highlight the series pretty well, though, Gordo.
Yeah, I mean, and a great angle on the engage from Turk and Bad for sure. Really spotting. Turk clapping back on our decision for player of the game there a little bit with that last engage. That was very great, and can't be bad mouthing that one little bit. A fantastic performance all around from a lot of the TAV roster, and I'm going to be excited to see them in finals next week, Slayer. But that's going to do it for our broadcast tonight, so thank you all for tuning in. Congratulations to TA on their trip to finals, and from myself, Slayer, and Caddy on production, have yourselves a fantastic night.